경상북도의회 박채아
We are honored to
교육위원장님
have
자리해
Park Chae-ah,
주셨습니다.
Chairperson of the Education Committee of the Gyeongbu Provincial Council.
교육부 하유경 국장님
We are
자리해
thrilled to have
주셨습니다.
Ha Yu-kyung, Director General at the Ministry of
오실
Education.
겁니다. 자,
She will be
경상북도교육청
joining soon.
권성현 부교육감님
And we
참석해
are thrilled to
주셨습니다.
have
어서 오십시오.
Kwon Song-yeon, Deputy Governor of the
네,
Gyeongbuk Office of
말레이시아
Education.
교육부는 직접 해외에서 오늘
From Malaysia
참석해
Ministry of
주셨는데요.
Education,
여러분들의
so
더욱더
they
큰 환영의
flew
박수가
to attend today's
필요해
forum
보입니다.
in person.
말레이시아
Please give
교육부
an even
아흐마
bigger round of
스와이미
applause.
빈
We are
MDQ
honored to
관리부
have Alba
사무처장님
Swaimi bin
자리해
Deputy Secretary
주셨습니다.
General of the Ministry of
어서
Education,
오십시오.
Malaysia. I'd like to extend sincere welcome.
말레이시아 교육부 야하빈
We are
압가니
thrilled to
재무부
have Yaha
차관도
bin
자리해
Abdini, Deputy Secretary
주셨습니다.
General of Finance at the Ministry of Education, Malaysia.
말레이시아 교육부 샤르프릴 이드즈안 빈 압둘
We are honored
칼리드
to
관리
have
부차관님 자리해
Juan
주셨습니다.
bin Abdul Khalid, Special Assistant to the Deputy Secretary General of Management at the
말레이시아
Ministry of
교육부
Education,
모하드
Malaysia.
나즈리프
We are
빈
thrilled to
모하드
have
노르
Mohad
전략기획
Nazrif bin
국제협력과
Mohad Noor,
선임보좌관님
Senior
자리해
Officer, Strategic
주셨습니다.
Planning and International Cooperation
어서
Division of the
오십시오.
Ministry of Education, Malaysia. I'd like to
이어서
extend
주한
sincere welcome.
대사관에서도 자리해
And we are
주셨습니다.
honored to
주한
have
호주 대사관
officials from the
홍주희
embassies.
실장님 자리해
We are honored
주셨습니다.
to have Hong Joo-hee,
어서 오십시오.
Director of the Embassy of Australia in Korea.
주한
Welcome.
필리핀 대사관 에드비온
We are
킬
thrilled to
멘도자
have
부대표
Edbion Gil Mendoza,
총영사님
Deputy Head of
자리해
Mission,
주셨습니다.
Consul General of the Embassy of the Philippines in Korea.
주한 필리핀 대사관 차리즈
We are
A
honored
발라란
to
문화
have
담당
Charis A.
첨사관님
Ballaran,
참석해
Cultural
주셨습니다.
Attaché, Embassy of the Philippines in Korea.
주한 우즈베키스탄 대사관
We are thrilled to
하흐리딘
have
나비예프
Haridin
정무참사관님
Nabiev,
참석해
Counselor for
주셨습니다.
Political
어서
Affairs at
오십시오.
the Embassy of Uzbekistan in Korea. Welcome.
주한 우즈베키스탄 대사관
We are honored
루스탄
to have
이사예프
Rustam
부대사
Isayev,
공사
Deputy Head of
참사관님
Mission,
자리해
Minister
주셨습니다.
Counselor at the Embassy of Uzbekistan in Korea.
주한 프랑스 대사관
We are
마르그리트
thrilled to
피켈
have
불어 교육 및
Marguerite
스포츠
Piquel,
협력
Attaché
담당관님
for French
참석해
Language Education and
주셨습니다.
Sports Cooperation at the Embassy of France
주한
in
프랑스
Korea.
대사관 클레망스
We are
두르트
happy
교육
to
스포츠
have
협력
Clemence
담당관님
Dutroux,
자리해
Administrative Officer of the
주셨습니다.
Education
어서
Sports
오십시오.
Cooperation Section at the Embassy of France in Korea. Welcome.
네, 마지막으로
Last
오늘
but
이렇게
not least,
뜻깊은 행사를 준비해
we are
주신
thrilled
경상북도
to have
교육청의 임종식 교육감님
Governor of
자리해
the
주셨습니다.
경상북도 Office of Education, who is the organizer for this meaningful forum.
네, 너무나도 감사드립니다.
Thank you very much for
이외에도
your
정말 많은
gracious
분들께서
presence.
함께해 주셨는데요. 일일이
We are
소개
honored
올리지
to have many
못해서
distinguished
양해
guests. Please
부탁드립니다.
understand that I
다시
wasn't
한번
able to
오늘 함께해
introduce
주신
everyone
모든
individually.
여러분들께
Once again, I'd like
감사의
to extend
말씀과
sincere
환영의
gratitude
말씀을
and welcome
전해
to
올립니다.
everyone for being
참고로
here.
오늘 행사 자료집이 아마
For your
테이블 위에
reference,
다
by
있을 겁니다.
scanning
함께 보실까요?
The QR
이쪽에
code,
나와
there are
있는데요.
some
한 페이지를
booklets located on your
넘기시면은
table. When you
표지
turn one
안쪽에
page,
QR 코드가
inside the
나와
cover,
있습니다.
there is a
이쪽
QR
QR 코드를 휴대폰 카메라로
We'd like to kindly encourage you to scan the QR code with your mobile
하실
phones
수
and you
있습니다.
are able
원고
to
함께
download
보시면서
the
강연을 들으시면 그
brief
깊이를
lecture
더욱더 느끼실
manuscripts.
수
We hope
있을
that reading
테니까요.
along with the
참고해
manuscripts
주시고요.
will allow you to
또
gain deeper
포럼의
insight
만족도
into each
조사도
presentation.
진행하고 있습니다.
In
이쪽
addition,
바로
you may
뒤쪽에
participate in the
QR
forum
코드가 또 다른
satisfaction
QR
survey
코드가
by scanning the
있습니다.
QR code
참여하실
at
수가
the bottom
있는데요.
of the back
여러분들께서
cover.
포럼 들으시면서 소중한
While
의견
listening to the forum,
전해주시면
your valuable
내년도
feedback will serve as an
2026년
important stepping
경북
stone in preparing
국제교육포럼을
the
준비하는 데 큰
2026
디딤돌이
Gyeongbuk
될
International
것입니다.
Education
많은
Forum.
관심과 참여
We sincerely
부탁드립니다.
encourage your participation.
자, 그럼 먼저 본 행사의 주최사이신
First, we would like
경상북도
to
교육청
invite
연구원의
Mr.
이상진
Sang-jin
원장님의
Lee,
대회사를
Director of
청해
the
듣도록
경상북도 Office
하겠습니다.
of Education
여러분
Research
큰
Institute, the
박수로 환영해
organizer
주시기
for the
바랍니다.
forum, to deliver opening remarks. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
안녕하십니까?
Distinguished guests, good afternoon.
경상북도교육청 연구원의 원장
I am Lee Sang-jin, Director of the 경상북도 Office of
바쁘심에도
Education Research
불구하고,
Institute.
참석해 주신
First, I would like to express my deep gratitude to Vice Minister of Education Choi Yeon-oh for joining us despite her busy schedule. And my appreciation goes to Governor Im Jong-sik of the 경상북도 Office of Education and Chairperson Park Chae-ah of the Education Committee of the 경상북도 Education Committee of Provincial Council for their continuous dedication. I am truly delighted to declare the opening of the K-Edu Expo International Education Forum, which is being held here in Gyeongju, the millennium-old city that hosts the 2025 APEC Summit.
우리는 인공지능
Today,
성장과 함께
Humanity
인류
stands
문명의
at the
거대한
threshold of tremendous
전환점에 서 있는 것
transformation
같습니다.
brought about the rise of artificial
기술은
intelligence.
인간의 사고,
AI
창의성,
technology is
그리고
reshaping
관계의
how humans
방식을
think,
변화시키고 있으며
create, and learn,
우리의
and maintain
일상과
relationship.
교육, 나아가 삶의 의미에까지 스며들고 있습니다.
So AI has been embedded into the meaning of
포럼의
life,
주제인
education,
인공지능 시대에
along the way.
삶과 교육을
The main theme of
성찰하다.
this forum,
그리고
reflecting on
슬로건,
life and education in the age of
함께
artificial
배우며
intelligence,
미래를 열다는
and its slogan,
이러한
learning
기술
together,
발전의
shaping tomorrow,
변화 속에서도
embody our shared
인간다움을
commitment to
지키며
exploring how
조화로운
we can
미래를
preserve our humanity
어떻게 만들어갈
and create a
것인가
harmonious
함께
future amid this
모색하고자 하는
technology-driven
것을 담았습니다.
transformation.
이틀간 10회에 걸쳐서
For 2 days,
진행되는 주제
through
강연과
10 sessions of keynote
토론을
speeches
통해
and discussions, this
인간을
education
대체하는
forum
시대가 아니라
will explore how
인간이
education can open
기술을
an
통해
era
자신을
not
더
of technology
깊이
replacing
이해하는 시대를
humanity,
열기
but
위해서
of human beings
교육이
gaining deeper
나아가야 될
self-understanding through
방향을 함께
technology,
고민하게
engaging in
될
soul-searching
것입니다.
movement for
나아가
exploring
이번
future
포럼이
pathway of
세계
education.
교육 공동체가
Going one
협력하는
step further, we hope this
소중한
event
계기가
becomes a
되기를
meaningful
아울러
opportunity for
기대해
global
봅니다.
education communities
끝으로
to collaborate, reflect,
기조강연을
and
준비해
act
주신
together.
OECD의
Finally, I would like to extend my
이달
sincere
정책
appreciation to
분석가님과
Mr. Quentin
스탠퍼드
Biddle,
대학의
policy
이사벨
analyst
하우
at the OECD, and
총괄
Dr.
이사님,
Isabel
그리고
Howe,
주제
executive
강연과
director at
토론을
Stanford
맡아주실
University, all domestic and international speakers who will share their valuable insights in the lectures and panel discussions.
아울러 포럼 장소를 이렇게 허락해 주신
Once again, my deepest appreciation
경주공업고등학교에도
goes
감사의
to
말씀을 전합니다.
Gyeongju
고맙습니다.
Mechanical High School for allowing us to use this
네,
platform. Thank you.
경상북도교육청 연구원의
So,
이상진
Director
원장님의
이상진 of the 경상북도 Office of Education
인간의
Research
기술을
Institute
통해 우리
deliver opening
자신을
remarks.
더욱더 잘
Through
알 수
technology,
있도록
humans
그
can develop
교육에 대한
better
중요성에
understanding
대해서 그 역할에
and the
대해서
significance
말씀해
of education, its
주셨습니다.
role have
너무나도
been well
감사드립니다.
delivered. Thank you very much.
자, 이어서 최은호 교육부 차관님의
Now we'll hear the
환영사가
welcome address
있겠습니다.
from Vice
차관님을
Minister
무대 위로
Untitled Chapter
모시겠습니다.
of the
여러분
Ministry
큰
of
박수로
Education.
환영해
Please
주시기
welcome
바랍니다.
Vice Minister to the stage with a warm applause.
안녕하세요. 교육부 차관
Good afternoon.
최은옥입니다.
I am Choi Eun-ok,
멀리
Vice Minister of
외국에서도
Education of the
오시고 이렇게
Republic of
국내에서도
Korea.
많은 분들이 참석해
And I
주셔서
believe
감사드립니다.
I would like to
오늘
express my gratitude to all
국제교육포럼은
of you who
AI
went all the way
시대
to participate in this
삶과
international forum.
교육을
And we
성찰하다는
have this
주제로
theme of
열리고
the AI
있습니다.
era devolutions and the life and
시대적으로 우리가
education.
같이 생각해봐야 하는
I
아주 중요한
believe this is
주제라고
a very
생각하고요.
timely theme to
오늘
think
이
of and
자리를 마련해
discuss.
주신
And I would like to
임종식
extend my
교육감을
gratitude
비롯한
to
관계자분들께
the
진심으로
governor
감사드립니다.
and the staff who made the international forum
이제
possible.
AI를 누구나 사용하는 시대가 되었습니다.
It is now era of
우리
AI.
일상생활에서도
in which
AI가
everybody can utilize
사용되고
AI. We can use
학교
AI in our daily
교실에서도 이제
lives,
사용이 되고
even in the
있습니다.
classroom.
이러한 때 AI를 활용하고
Utilizing
개발을
AI,
어떻게 하느냐 하는 것은
developing AI
우리 국가 경쟁력과도 직결되는 문제이고
directly
또
related to the
개인으로 봐서는
competitiveness of a
AI
single
활용
nation.
격차에
And
따라서
also this
학습
will
격차가
contribute
일어나기도 하고
to the
일자리
gap
격차가
in
일어나기도
learning
합니다.
and
이러한 때
workforces.
우리 교육은 어떻게 바뀌어야 될
So
것이냐
at this
하는
point,
것은
we also
우리에게
need to
큰
think about
물음이
how
되고
we
있습니다.
can utilize AI and adapt to this new era.
우리 한국 정부에서는
The Korean government
AI 시대를 맞이하여
has been
AI
trying
3강을
to live
국정
up
목표
to
중에
the era
하나로
of
선정을
AI,
하였습니다.
and we choose
그래서
AI as one of the national
AI가
agendas.
과학기술적으로
for
그리고
the
산업적으로
projects,
국가
so
경쟁력을
that
높이는
AI
데
can
굉장히
contribute to the
중요한
competitiveness of the
주제가 되고
Republic of
있고요.
Korea scientifically
저희
and
교육에서도
industrially. And
생애 주기별 AI 교육을 어떻게
We are also
해 나가야 하는 것인가를 굉장히 중요하게
on how
생각하고
we can
생애
build a
주기별 AI 교육
lifelong
시스템
centered
구축하는
learning
것을
framework
저희가
that
추진해
enables
나가고
every citizen to
있습니다.
understand, use AI appropriately through each stage of
초중등
life.
단계에서는
For
AI가
from the elementary to high
기능적으로
school
AI를
students,
과학기술적으로 익히는 그러한 것도 물론
we
중요하지만
believe that utilizing
AI를
AI
잘 활용하기
in a
위해
various field,
누구나
including
AI를
science, is really
제대로
important. However, more
정확한
importantly, I
사용처에 따라서
believe
사용하기
we
위해서는
deeply need to
질문하는 힘이
understand
가장
how we
중요하다고
can use
생각합니다.
AI efficiently
질문하는
and
힘은
appropriately. And this comes
학생들이
from the power of
우리 생활
having a
주변에서
questions.
그리고 학습하는 과정에서
And in this process of
문제를
learning,
발견하고
the
그
students have
문제에 대해서
to
질문을
enjoy this
하고
moment to
또 그
discover
질문을
a
위해서
issue,
여러 가지
understand the issue,
사고를 확산해
and
나가는
try
그런
to
과정을 통한
find an
배움이
answer to
일어나게
resolve
되는
this
것이고
issue.
그래서
And I believe
질문하는
this
힘을
whole
키우는 것이
process
가장
is
중요하고
critical. So I believe
질문하는
the
힘을
power
키우는
of
데에는
questioning or asking a
인문학적
question is really
소양과
critical. And
문해력이
this
중요하다고
is
생각합니다.
coming
그래서 우리
from all the
교육에서는 교실에서
literacy.
질문
So
중심 수업이 일어나도록
I
하고
believe
그 토론식
that
수업이
we
일어나도록 하는
are
것을
supposed
저희가
to create
굉장히
an
중요하게
environment that allows
생각하고
our students to
있습니다.
question and ask questions when
저희
they need to, when they
초중부에서는
want to.
질문하는 힘을 키우기 위한
And in
독서
order to nurture
교육도
this
여전히 중요하게
power
생각합니다.
of
그래서
having a
학교의
questions,
도서관을
we
활용한
try
수업이라든지
to
학생들이
encourage
독서
students to
경험을
read
통해서
more, so they can pay a
독서하는
visit
재미를
to
느끼고
libraries more often,
본인의
and they can
평생
savor this
독서하는 그런
moment of
역량을
reading a
키워나가는
book.
것도
So
중요하기
nurturing
때문에
this capability,
저희가
I
독서
believe this is
교육을
really
학교의 문화로
important.
정착시키기
So
위한
we try
그런
our best
정책도
to
같이
make this
추진하고
culture
있습니다.
of reading a book
그리고
at school.
대학과 평생
And
교육에서는
then for the university and lifelong education
AI
center,
인재를
we
개발하는 그런
endeavor
전문적인
to
교육
nurture AI experts
그리고
and professionals.
AI를 여러 분야와 연결해서
And we
같이
try to
활용하는
connect
그런
this
보통
AI
저희가
technology to
AIX라고
other
하는 그런
areas.
융합교육 이렇게
We
크게 두
call as
갈래로
AI
중점을 두어
X.
추진하고 있습니다.
This is the main focus
AI
of the
전문 인재
university and the
교육은
lifelong
AI
education.
전공이나
So AI
석박사 과정 그리고
professionals such as a
연구소와
master's
산업과
degree and the
연계하는
doctorates
그런 교육 과정을 통해서
can
저희가 전문
seize this
인재를
moment
길러내려고 하고요.
of opportunity
AI
to collaborate with
융합교육은
other people from various
AI를
fields.
다양한
AI
분야에
convergent
활용하는
education
것도 굉장히
allows people to
중요한
adopt this
인재들입니다.
new AI
그래서
technology to various fields.
인문사회 교육을 기반으로 한 AIX 또 다른
AIX
공학과의 융합을 통한
and the
AIX
conversion
이런
of
인재들을
AI
길러나가려고
into
합니다.
different areas. These
그리고
are the
AI
main
시대에
focuses
변화하는
and the
시대에
key
우리 국정 목표
message
중에
that we
또
try to
하나가
keep in mind when we
국가
nurture
균형
our
성장입니다.
people
국가
and
균형
professionals.
성장을
And also
AI와
we put
연계하여 추진하는
balanced
것도
growth
굉장히
at the
중요한
center
일이라고
of every
생각합니다.
project or every
예를
principle that
들면
pursue.
AI
For
거점 대학을
example,
육성을 하고
we try to
또
nurture
지역의
and
특화
establish
산업과
AI
연계한
center university,
그런
and we
AI를
foster the collaborations
발전시켜서
between the university and the
AI
industry.
인재 양성과 교육이 지역의 산업
nurturing AI
발전을
professional and
선도하고
education
그렇게
can
발전된
contribute
산업이
to further growth of
지역에
the local
정주할 수 있는
economy.
인재들을 받아들이고
And
그렇게 하는 선순환을 만들어가는
we try
것이
to
저희가
create this
굉장히
virtuous
중요한 일이라고
cycle
생각하고 있습니다.
of utilizing and adapting
오늘
this AI
AI
technology.
분야의 전문가이신 많은
We are
외국에서
joined
오신
by many AI
연사들 분들
professionals and
오시고 또
experts.
토론자분들 참석해 주신
And
걸로
also
알고
we're going to
있습니다.
have a very
귀한
productive
그러한 철학을
discussions.
나눠주시는데
And I would
감사드리고
like to extend my
오늘
gratitude
이
for your
자리에서는
warm and
여러분들께서 AI 교육
excellent insights.
삶과 교육에 있어서
And I believe this is
우리가
going to be a
어떻게
very great
성찰해 나가며
opportunity
학생들을 교육할
to
것인지에
ponder
대해서
how to provide the education to our
같이
students
질문하고
in the
또
era of
우리의
AI. I
경험을
hope
같이
that this is a
나누면서
moment of asking our
새로운
questions
시대 AI 시대에
and finding
제대로 된 우리 아이들을 위한
solution to direct the educations for our children. I hope that this will be a great first step. And lastly, I would like to wish you a good health and happiness. Thank you very much. It was a welcome address by the Unok Choi, Vice Minister of Education of the Republic of Korea. The AI capabilities can contribute to different social gaps in terms of the works and the technologies, and she emphasized the power of asking questions. Thank you very much.
Moving on, I would like to ask Park Tae-ya, Chairperson of Education Committee of Gyeongbuk Provincial Council, for her congratulatory remarks. Please welcome her with a big round of applause. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Park Tae-ya, Chairperson of Education Committee of Gyeongsangbuk-do Provincial Council out of Gyeongbuk. I would like to extend sincere welcome to all of you for visiting millennial-old city, Gyeongju. Thanks to special lecture of Governor Im Jong-sik of Gyeongsang-bukdo Office of Education, it holds a great significance. In the age of era, what matters is to figure out the moral compass for our kids to let them know what to do and what not to do for human dignity and the moral compass given to our kids. We need to set up such norms. In the age of rapidly changing AI, we shouldn't lose track of this importance. So by trade, I serve as tax accountant. So out of the jobs that will disappear over the next 10 years, tax accountants is pick one of them. Giving education in this era is a daunting challenge. We never anticipate how education will move forward 1 or 2 years later. At the minimum level, we need to let our kids develop understanding on the minimum level of values and the moral values. The Governor Im Jong-sik highlighted the importance of Gyeongbuk as the educational mecca. In the age of AI, we need to do a better job as a provincial council so that they can develop a good mindset. Thank you. Chairperson Park Tae-ah, thank you very much for your insightful, congratulatory remarks. Moral compass and the ethical standards should be well delivered to our kids for a better future down the road. So I assume announcer is one of the jobs that will go away. So for survivability, I am doing my best. So to make a new pathway forward, we need to do a better job. We are honored to be joined by some of the students at the backside. So today's lecture holds even greater significance for our future generation. So there was some spoiler alert. There will be a very special lecture that will be given by Governor Im Jong-sik of the Education Office for the Gyeongsang-bukdo Province. Please welcome Mr. Lin with a big round of applause. Distinguished guests, good afternoon. I am Im Jong-sik, Governor of the Education Office of the Gyeongsang-bukdo Province. Distinguished guests and respected education leaders from around the world, it is a great pleasure to meet you all. So this session is titled as Special Lecture. There will be joined by even more prominent experts that will be even more special. So this title gives a lot of pressure to me. So rather than giving a specialized input to you, please good use of this session as a warming up session before moving to the expert session. Now that I am a practitioner in the field, I would like to share what I feel and how I perceive. I'm wearing a golden colored necktie, so is it good fit for me? So you're supposed to say yes to me. So giving a big round of applause will make this even more meaningful as an A+ answer. 1,000 years ago, in Shilla Kingdom, for millennium, Shilla Kingdom served as the very stepping stone. So no country has lasted for 1,000 years, but Shilla has continued to thrive for millennium. Out of monuments, Shilla boasts gold-related monuments such as crowns, earrings, etc. Recently, if you ever heard K-pop Demon Hunters or watched that animation, so of course it was a creation of the international production, but its theme set in Korea. So one of the OST of K-pop Demon Hunters, Golden, is getting popular around the world. That is why the golden tie worn by me as a renewed momentum. Today, my topic will shed light on what kind of preparation we need to make in the age of AI. So yesterday, on the opening ceremony, Chairperson Salman Khan and the Professor Lee Se-do held a special session in the way of conversation. So on opening ceremony,
많은 분들이 놀랐습니다.
their session
살만
gave a wow moment to everyone.
이
Why?
지켜지지 않은데도 불구하고
Salman Khan didn't attend the session in person.
전문가니까
So as an online expert, Mr. Salman was joining us virtually, seamlessly, and organically, just like he was being in person.
거기에서도 AI에 대해서 깊이 있는
At the very moment, in-depth discussion was proceeding for AI. In particular, as a Go player, Mr. Lee Se-dol,
AI 파둑을 두면서
while enjoying a Go match with AI,
사람이 이길 수 있는
won only one
이어서
match out of a total of 5 matches.
어제
So that match made Mr. Isedol even more famous. Our conventional wisdom may trigger curiosity
어제 강연 내용
over how human Go player will do against AI.
충격이
His lecture served as the source of inspiration. And the awe-inspiring moment back then
자긍심을 가지고
showed that as a Go master,
천박에 무너지니까
Mr. Isedol suffered
결국은 이 세대
unbelievable defeat,
이런 생각
and that laid the groundwork for Mr. Lee Se-dol to grow even further.
자, 먼저 AI에 대해서 제가 교육을 수행할 때
First of all, when it comes to AI, there are three major ways towards education.
AI 활용 능력을
Number one,
키워줘야 되겠다.
the capability to tap into AI should grow even further.
지방
There are big metro region versus non-metro regions in South Korea, so there is such dichotomy in terms of housing, etc. What about AI era? Whether it be big metro region and not so metro region, when it comes to education,
가능성을
depending on what kind of efforts you make, AI will be equal to everyone. In order to beef up our capacity, of course, AI provides some divide already. Depending on what kind of usage or payment you pay for, there's a big divide. A small minority stays ahead of the curve. In the meantime, the underserved AI group are suffering from the divide. So we need to do a better job of narrowing the divide. Technology is all about efficiency. So what we need is compassionate, warm-hearted technology. So when we integrate the warmth and inspiration to Gyeongbuk education, we can move forward. So what makes education beautiful is we can provide tailor-made, customized education. A single teacher alone will not narrow the education divide. However, with the help of AI, we can make a difference. In the meantime,
역량을 강화하는 그런 연수들을
strengthening teachers' capacity and relevant educational courses and training need to do a better job. Of course, we are providing relevant courses as we speak. But what is important is to make sure that autonomy-driven training courses. Gyeongbuk education is all about self-initiative and autonomy. When teachers feel the necessity of taking such courses, listening to the input
제시할 필요가 있다.
of the front line,
어저께
we as an education office need to provide such setting. Yesterday, we had the Khan and Isedol's
학생들이 다 볼 수 있는
educational courses. So based on such input, our teachers need to prepare themselves even better. Second, the threats stemming from AI. AI is not all about boon. AI can bring about pitfalls.
우리가 AI DT를 준비하면서
While preparing for AI DT, the biggest concern facing
속에 빠져서 하는
parents are
AI 교과서
looking at their kids and children who are immersed in AI at home. But when we bring AI into the classroom,
AI는
will it be too much and go overboard? Of course, AI
AI가
can become monster-like entity. So if we face the era of AI-made AI, can humans take a decent control over such setting? There is a reasonable concern. In the face of such threats,
대비를 하고 준비를 해야 된다.
we need to be always ready and prepared.
지치지도 않습니다.
AI
버리지도 않습니다.
is never getting exhausted. AI is never forgetful. And their level of growth is tectonic and exponential. We used to have a wow moment once a year, but that frequency is getting shorter and shorter, and every day we will have a wow moment coming from AI. Against such backdrop, how should our human beings respond?
조금 전에 그 세무사 또 아나운서 다
Tax accountant and announcer are some of the jobs that are likely to go away. Even in the medical field,
따라갈 수 없는 그런 부분이
law,
많이 있고 사람을
many fields will have difficulty in catching up with the growth of AI. AI
여기에 대해서
is surpassing human beings. So we need to be engaged in soul-searching moment over how we can maintain our human dignity. What is even more concerning is the psychological dominance of AI. Some kids have the AI boyfriend or girlfriend, and even the older adults are having a psychological counseling session with AI.
두려운 것 중에 하나가
So one of the concerning factors is for
지금 벌써 이 얘기입니다.
person who has AI girlfriend and boyfriend to have a conversation and develop rapport. And what if he or she
느닷없는
comes up
얘기를
with questions such as, what do you think about suicide?
자살로 내모는
So is it true that AI can drag that
그래서 우리
questioning mind towards the actual committing suicide?
이겨낼 수
So
있을 것인가?
how can we do a better job of protecting our kids
이런
against
대비를 해야
such an
된다고
imminent
말씀드리고,
threats? That is why we need to do a better job in preparation. Next, AI companionship.
AI는 좋은 것이냐 나쁜 것이냐
Whether it is good or whether it is
알
bad,
수 없다는 겁니다.
AI cannot make a such dichotomy. AI
어제 그
is neutral. As covered during the yesterday's session, AI is neutral.
다루느냐
Then how
따라서
can we respond to AI?
따뜻한 그런 기술이 될 수
Depending on how we control AI, AI can become a technology of compassion, while AI can pose a threat to human beings, as you may have seen from sci-fi movie.
동행이라는 것이 참
So companionship is a very important
어저께
value.
제가 음악제에서 이 동행이라는
2 days
시를
ago, in a music festival,
읊어드린 적이 있었는데
so I recited a poem titled Companionship.
그대 나무 같은 나를
Flower like you
이 그대에다가
and tree like me, we make a journey. So when you put AI into some of the verse,
10번은
it will be even more meaningful. Since you are a flower, you will change over 10 times, which is very frequent in 10 years of timeline. Since I'm like a tree, so there will be some a tree-like moment.
길 가는 동안
Burning mind will be my own. To make sure that you will never get tired along the journey, please never forget this mindset. The same applies to AI. AI should be like this a aroma of flower, never getting tired. We need to go hand in hand in AI era based on the mindset of neutrality. In order to deliver on dignity-based education, we need to provide the moment of soul-searching and self-introspection. Communication, reflection are becoming even more important. Humanities, arts, and the creativity-driven education will become even more important. As highlighted before, student-centric, student-driven education matter. 경상북도 became the first entity of such. Questioning mind-driven classroom has become realized, not in the way of conceptual thinking. Yesterday, AI-driven discussion was offered at the booth. Such efforts will become even more significant in the way of challenge-driven credit system. International Education Forum and K-Edu Expo, harmonious coexistence, companionship between human beings and AI will allow us to move forward. Thank you.
네, 교육감님,
Thank you
오늘
Governor,
정말 뜻깊은 자리를
for
마련해
your such a
주셨습니다.
insightful
이
remarks.
시간을 기획해
Now
주신
that you
시간을
organize
가져보면
this
어떨까
meaningful
싶어서요.
event, why don't we
기념사진
take a
촬영을
time to
하겠습니다.
capture this meaningful moment with a commemorative
네,
photo
오늘
shoot?
주제강연 너무나도
Thank you
좋았고요.
very much
아마
for
많은 분들께서
your
기쁜
insightful
칭찬을 전달해 주셨던 것 같습니다.
remarks.
네, 그럼 참석하신 내빈분들과 그리고 연사분들을
So I would like to
무대로
kindly
모시도록
invite all the
하겠습니다. 한분 한분 천천히 무대로
distinguished
올라와
guests
주시기
and the speakers to come forward to the stage one by one.
네, 사진 촬영 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
So we are going to have
천천히
this
무대로
commemorative
올라와
photo
주시기
sessions.
바랍니다.
Please come forward to the stage, the distinguished guest.
네, 오늘 정말로 AI를 위해서 또 우리의 교육을
We are
위해서
also
우리의
joined
자리를
by
마련해
many AI
주셨습니다.
experts and distinguished
여러분들의
guests.
뜨거운 박수가
Please.
필요합니다.
Give them a big round of applause for the distinguished guests up on the stage.
네, 파이팅 고지 한번 해보도록 하겠습니다. 이쪽에 계신 분들께서는
Please
오른손,
give me
또
findings.
이쪽에 계신
And the
분들께서는
people on
왼손으로
this
들어주시면
side,
더
please
좋을 것
use
같습니다.
your right hands, and
네.
people on this side, please your
하트로
left
할까요?
hands.
네,
Can we change it to
Korean
the
style.
heart, a little Korean heart?
하트,
Can you use your fingers to
사진
create a
찍어보도록
little
하겠습니다.
Korean
하나,
heart?
둘,
1, 2,
셋.
3.
여러분 박수
Please
부탁드립니다.
give them a big round of applause.
네, 감사합니다. 천천히
Thank you very
자리로
much.
모시도록
Please
하겠습니다.
go back to your seats.
감사드립니다.
Thank you very much.
네. 이어서 첫 번째 세션을
Now we
시작할
begin the first
텐데요.
session of
여러분들
this
다시 한번
program,
안내
the keynote
말씀드리도록
speech.
하겠습니다.
This is
앞쪽에
housekeeping
있는 책자의 첫
announcement.
번째 페이지를
On the very first
넘겨보시면
page of the
QR
booklet,
코드가
there is a QR
나옵니다.
code that you
QR
can
코드를
scan.
휴대폰 카메라를
Please
갖다
take a photo
대시면
of the QR
오늘
code
강연의 강연 자료를 받아보실 수
to
있으시니까요.
have an access
이제부터
to
함께
full booklet
보시면서
for
강연을
this
들으시면
session.
더욱더
Please
깊이 있는
go through
통찰을 함께
the
하실 수가 있을 거고요.
booklet
또 맨
that is
뒤쪽으로
prepared
돌려서
online.
보시면
And at
만족도
the back
조사까지도
of
참여하실
the
수가
book, there
있다라는
is a
점
QR
기억해
code for the
주시기 바랍니다.
satisfaction survey.
또한 첫
Please
번째
refer to it.
강연은 저희
Let me
동시 통역이
invite
필요하신 분들께서는 꼭
the very
리시버를 착용해
first
주시고
keynote speech speaker,
함께
and
해주시면
before
좋을 것
that,
같습니다.
please keep the receiver
자,
if you
그럼
want to
오늘
hear
행사의
the
첫 번째
simultaneous
세션
interpretations.
기조강연을 청해
And
듣도록 하겠습니다.
we'd like to begin the
OECD
keynote speech. We are honored to
교육기술국에서
welcome
정책 분석가로
Mr.
활동하고
Quentin
계신
Vital,
퀸틴
Policy Analyst
비달님께서
at the OECD
생성형
Directorate for
AI
Education
시대,
and
인간
Skills,
존엄성과
under the
삶,
theme of redefining the
교육의 의미,
meanings of human
재정의를
dignity,
주제로
life, and education in the
기조강연을
era of
해주시겠습니다.
generative AI.
여러분, 큰
Please
박수로
welcome
환영해
him
주시기
to the stage with a
바랍니다.
big round of applause.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Is the interpretation okay? Yeah, okay. So it's a great pleasure to be here today, a great pleasure to be in Gyeongju. It's a beautiful city. So my name is Quentin Vidal, and I work at the OECD. And before I start, actually, I realized that I didn't have a slide to present what the OECD is, and I think I should say a few words about it because it's not so well known everywhere. So the OECD stands for the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. It's an international organization, and Korea actually is a member country. We have 38 member countries that fund different projects. And what we do, in a nutshell, is that we collect data and statistics on public policies in different countries. We analyze those statistics, those public policies, and we tried to promote policy recommendations for better policies for better lives. That's the mantra of the OECD, and that's what we do. And we do it in a range of domains, in environment, tax, economics, trade, whatever. And what I do personally is that I do this in education. So my presentation is going to be twofold, really, because I work on two different projects at the OECD. One on digital education, and that's very much relevant to this conference. And the second project, it's a project that started before the first one, actually. It's a project on creativity and critical thinking. And we will see how relevant those two projects have become now. So let's go to the substance, and let's go to the first project, the OECD Digital Education Outlook. So it's a project that started many years ago now, before the COVID-19 crisis, so before the pandemic and before all those technologies were so prevalent in the classroom. And what we've been doing is that we've been analyzing and monitoring and trying to understand what the benefits of AI and digital technologies could be in education. So for this type of work, we have asked the insights and the advice of researchers, academic researchers, to tell us what they think was feasible with those types of technologies. So robotics, blockchain, learning analytics, a range of different things. And we reported those opportunities in this report. 2 years later, we took a different approach, and that's why I was saying that the OECD collects and analyzes data and then promote policy recommendations. 2 years later, we surveyed countries, including Korea actually, and we asked them how they were dealing with the provision and governance of digital education ecosystems to know where countries stood actually as regards the possibilities offered by digital technology in education. And what I'm going to focus on for the context of this presentation is the next work, the work that is currently underway, and that focuses on generative AI in education. Briefly, when I say AI and digital technology, I have this in mind, all these applications, because as we will see in the rest of the presentation, of the keynote, now when we talk of AI, what people have in mind is generative AI, but actually we analyzed a much broader galaxy of tools and resources that have applications for teaching and learning, that's the most obvious ones, but also for education system and school management. In a nutshell, the conclusion of the first two reports, the reports that we published in 2021 and 2023, is the following, is that compared to what is technically feasible, I don't say it's a goal to pursue necessarily, but compared to what is technically feasible with the technologies that we have in 2021 at least, countries are still very much on their way. I wouldn't say they are lagging behind, but because sometimes it's an intentional decision, but countries are only on their way towards a digital transformation, and actually most countries, some countries do better than others, but most countries are just digitizing some practices rather than thinking what could be the best uses and integrations of those tools in education. This is one example. This is the proportion of countries that provide digital learning resources to their school systems or to their teachers. You see that the gray bars show that most countries do provide these types of resources, but very rarely, it was in 2023, very rarely those resources rely on smart things or AI features. That's one lesson. Because we are the OECD, when we have this knowledge base of analysis, then we promote guidelines in this context, but it's like policy recommendations or guardrails to follow. That's what we did in 2023 with the Education International, so a federation of teachers. And that's also what we are going to do now for the next outlook, which is the one I'm going to focus on now because it focuses on generative AI in education. So why generative AI and what makes generative AI so special, so different from the previous technologies that we have analyzed so far? First, because the discussions, as I said, now are dominated by generative AI, and actually there is a big confusion now in many spheres between traditional or conventional AI and generative AI like chatbots, but the latter is just a subset of the former. What makes it different is that A, it creates new content, and I'm not talking about just recommendation, it creates actual new content, text, images, videos. Second thing is that it enables conversation-based learning, or discussions at least. That's the case with the chatbots. And the third thing, and that's a very important point, those chatbots, those conversational agents, they have been designed with a general purpose in mind. So they have not been designed to address a specific education target. They are designed to be used as a conversational agent, which has some advantages, but also some downwards and downsides, and that's what I'm going to show. Another big difference is compared to the technologies and tools that I talked about just before, is that generative AI is widely accessible. We all use it, students use it, teachers use it, and it's a very big difference compared to the learning analytics tools, for example, or to the robotics, or to those things that are so specific and sometimes so expensive that actually only a few people, students and teachers alike, have used it. So that's another big difference between generative AI and the rest of the technologies. And of course, it comes with new risks. The most obvious of the first risks that people had in mind when ChatGPT was released is the threat to the credentialing function of education, which is just one function of education. But of course, people started to fear that students would use it to cheat exams, and that was a threat to academic integrity. So that's one risk. Another big risk, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute, is the risk of over-reliance, of metacognitive laziness, as I call it, when teachers or students offload too much of their activities or tasks to a machine, and different risks. But it also comes with new opportunities in education, and I know this because I've been doing this for a while. We have often talked about personalized learning, and maybe for the first time we are seeing evidence of a proper functional personalized learning. It's the case with several tools. That's one thing. It indeed improves the quality of teaching resources, of educational resources, and if it's not improving, at least it's translating or adapting it to different students. It provides feedback, it's available 24/7, and so on. Many new opportunities. So what we are doing what we've been doing for the past 2 years, and what is going to be released in the next Outlook in 2026, January 2026, is that we have asked a range of academic researchers in different countries, different continents, to report on their latest research evidence. And keep in mind that the scientific research takes time, so what we have here is just the beginning of it. And one example that we are going to report on is this fact that, as I was saying, the risk, or one opportunity with generative AI is that it can indeed improve your learning, and it can improve the performance of students or teachers, but in this study it was students. And you see that in Turkey, for example, they have divided students into 3 groups. One that was using ChatGPT as a tutor, one that was using ChatGPT with a novel version, and one that was not using ChatGPT. And I think it was in mathematics for grade 9 and 10. And what they realized is that indeed, that's the first 2 bars. Indeed, of course, students who use the ChatGPT tutor version or the ChatGPT base version, they do better when they practice than the ones who don't use it. It's kind of evident. They have access to new resources, to different interactions with their tools, so they do better. However, and that's where it's interesting, when it comes the day of the exam, the students that have been using ChatGPT, the base version of ChatGPT, they actually do worse than the students who have not been practicing with ChatGPT. And for the ones that have been using a specific version of ChatGPT, it was actually no different. So one reason for this is possibly that when they were practicing, students just asked the machine, the chatbot, to provide them with the responses, and they got it, but it didn't mean that they learned how to solve the problems that they had in hand. So that's one example, and I will come back to it later. Another risk, or like distinctions to make between opportunity and risk, is the case of metacognitive laziness. So that's a Chinese study where they showed that students who used a chatbot were also doing better than the rest. However, they didn't feel like they were learning, and because they didn't feel like they were learning, they didn't learn, or it didn't translate in long-term learning gains. I'm going to go fast on this, but that's the kind of studies that we are trying to report on. And we are also trying to broaden the spectrum and analyze teacher-facing tools, because ChatGPT or the conversational agents or generative AI are not only used by students, it's also used by teachers and by other people. And this one is a famous study by colleagues of Isabel from Stanford. It's a study, a randomized control trial, so the best kind of study that you can have if you want to assess the impact of one thing on another. It's a study where they provided tutors, so not teachers, but tutors, with this tutor copilot in the US, with the K-12 students. And what they found out, and that's interesting, is that the tutors who were assisted by tutor copilot, so that's the red line, they were doing better than the ones that didn't have access to this to the tool. That's interesting. But perhaps the more interesting thing is that if you look at the teachers on the left, or let's say that they showed that the effectiveness of the tool was bigger for the what they call the low-quality tutors, but it's the less experienced tutors. So for them, it was a bigger improvement than it was for the more qualified tutors. So for one, it can improve the quality of tutoring, and second, it can level the playing field between different tutors. So from this basis, again, we analyze, we collect data, we compare what countries are doing, and from this basis, we promote policy recommendations, again in the form of opportunities, guidelines, and guardrails. I cannot release them all now because they are going to be released in 2 months now, in January 2026. But the preliminary messages that we take away from this work are the following. First, and perhaps the most important thing, is this one. Successfully performing a task with AI does not automatically lead to learning. So it's the difference between performing in an exam and learning. It's the difference between short-term performance and long-term learning gains. That's one thing. Second thing, and that's what's going to lead me to the next part of this keynote, is that students still need to master foundational knowledge with and without AI, so it's important to have open book exams, but as well closed book environment for exams. Third thing, and that's one of the human values, one of the distinctions that we need to foster and preserve in integrating those tools, is that we need to use them with a purpose, with a meaning. We need to think of the smartest way to integrate those things in the learning. It's not a matter of just providing your students with the tool, it's a matter of making a purposeful use of it. One analogy that is often made is the analogy of the calculator. When the calculator arrived, we didn't stop teaching mathematics. We didn't stop teaching calculus. However, we changed the way mathematics were taught, and for less calculus and more of the problem solving and theoretical part of it. So it's this kind of changes and shift that might take time, but it's the kind of changes that we should be doing with generative AI. Fourth is that, again, it's going to lead to the next part, so I'm not going to focus on this, is that there are other skills that need to be preserved and enhanced while integrating generative AI in education. 5, it's important for teachers to keep professional judgment when they use AI and to remain and to keep an oversight on the tool. 6, and it's a too broad topic to talk about it now, but it's the topic of assessment. We have studies that show that you can use a generative AI tool to design an assessment, but also to grade your students and give them a mark. Great, it can be a lot of time that you gain with doing this, but then you have to ask yourself, why am I assessing my students? If it's just to have them get a grade, maybe I'm losing part of the purpose of it. If you don't even know how your students fare and how they do in an exam, then what's the point of, or in an assessment at least, in a formative assessment, then what's the point of the assessment? And the remaining points are more for policymakers and governments. It's recommendations that we've been making before and that we continue to make and that will be pointed to later, is the fact that those tools, and it's true for many other tools, if you want your teachers and your students and your schools to use them, they need to be co-designed, they need to involve teachers, students, users in their designs to make sure that they are appropriate, efficient, and safe. So that's a set of key messages that we took away for now from this work and that we have elaborated on. So that's for the first project, and that leads me to the next part of the presentation, because in a word, what we recommend to users, teachers, students, schools, is to preserve human agency. It's a good tool to enhance human skills, but it's important to safeguard the human values. And how to preserve the human agency? Well, I'm going to show you one example because it's a project that I work on, and it's the example of creativity and critical thinking. So why creativity and critical thinking? So first question that we ask ourselves is, can you automate creativity and critical thinking? So the simple question before generative AI arrived was no. There was no tool smart enough, let's say, to replicate creativity and critical thinking. Now that we have some very powerful versions of generative AI chatbots, actually there are studies, and actually we have a project at the OECD that showed that yes, those tools can be, for instance, creative because they can generate tons of ideas, they have access to the knowledge of the world, basically, and they are able to make connections between different disciplines, and they are able to propose new ideas. So they have the power to generate a lot of ideas. So that's one thing. But if it's not because they can do it, that we should not be doing it also. It's a matter of navigating the future world and the workplace. Second reason why we should focus on creativity and critical thinking is because, and that's the reason why we started this project in the first place, those are skills that employers and job markets have been asking for a long time. So this is a survey of 2025, but I could show you the same survey 10 years ago and maybe 20 years ago. Creativity, creative thinking, critical thinking, those are skills that employers look for. Third reason, because we are the OECD, so technically we focus on economics and growth, but we are also interested in the well-being and the citizenship of the country members' population. And it's been evidenced by different studies that creativity and critical thinking are good for the broader life of people, for their emotions, for their health, for their openness to others. It's important skills to master, and perhaps even more nowadays. Fourth, so that's studies that support those claims. One thing that is missing from this slide is that actually those two skills, creativity and critical thinking, they go hand in hand. They are very much related in terms of cognitive processes and in terms of what is required to develop one is also required to some extent to develop the others. And 5, and that's what is of interest to us as education practitioners, those skills are not just skills for their own sake. They are skills that help improve the depth and the quality of learning. So when you learn a domain where you are asked to be more creative or to be more to have more of a critical thinking spirit, you are more engaged with the task. You go deeper and you try to make connections with different disciplines, and you try to critically assess what you are provided with. So they are important for the learning of science, for the science of learning. Great, so that's many reasons to develop those two skills, but how do we do it? So we have this other project, Fostering Creativity and Critical Thinking. As I was saying, it's a project that started independently of the first one, and it's a project which is not so common at the UCD because it's a quasi-experimental design. We've been working with a network of students, teachers, and faculty in a variety of countries to define, develop, foster, and assess creativity and critical thinking. First thing first, we had to find definitions because we worked with different countries. So we have to find a definition that will work for both creativity and critical thinking internationally. Then, together with those teachers, we developed a bank of resources that integrated creativity and critical thinking within traditional domains. So the point is not to have a course on creativity or a course on critical thinking. The point was to integrate bits of creativity and critical thinking within those domains. And we have developed lesson plans, and we have also developed tools to monitor the efficacy of these resources and activities. So you see that's the network of countries we've worked with. So Korea was also a country that we work with, thanks to the collaboration of K-Edu, which is a Korean Development Education Institute or something like this. 31,000 students, 1,200 educators across the world, so that's a lot of people to bring together and to find common definitions with. The definition that we started with and that we worked on for creativity is this one. It's the ability to produce work that is both novel and appropriate. So that's very human. So the first part, the ability to produce work that is novel, the divergent exploratory part of it, as we call it in the science, is indeed something that a machine, generative AI, can do probably better than humans. It's able to generate a lot of many ideas. The second part, however, making sure that those ideas are relevant and appropriate for the task, is perhaps less easy. And the third and fourth part are really something that generative AI in their current forms are not good at, is the fact that to be creative, you have to be at ease with unusual and daring ideas. And that's typically not what a conversational agent will do. It will rather suggest to you some conventional standard ideas. So that's an interesting thing. Critical thinking was defined as such, the ability to carefully evaluate and judge statements, ideas, and theories relative to alternative explanations or solutions so as to reach a competent, independent position. So it's a long definition, but basically it's about taking perspective, taking a step back, assessing what you have under your eyes, and trying to assess, to challenge the assumptions and to assess its foundation. As I was saying, it's a quasi-experimental project, so we have worked with two groups. I mean, we have divided the students and the teachers into two groups. Groups that were taught as normal, continued, the normal teaching continued, and a group, and I mean several groups in different countries that were taught with the new resources on creativity and critical thinking. I'm not going to go into detail because you have access to all these online actually, those rubrics for teaching or for assessment, the definitions, everything is available online, as is everything that the UCD produces, in fact. You can access it for free. That's an example of a syllabus that has been redesigned to teach creativity and critical thinking. Takeaways from this work that has lasted for more than 8 years now, is that there are a variety of pedagogical approaches that do work to promote creativity and critical thinking, and that could even be done within lectures, actually. It's not a matter of getting rid of the lectures. You can have some lectures that are creative and that foster critical thinking. A lot of commonalities. You teachers, faculty have to be explicit and international. That's really two main takeaways that we made from this development work. Focus on the processes and not just on the products, and that very much relate to the use of generative AI, because typically when you will use a generative AI tool, you will just be assessing the product, which is going to be good enough, but then you don't have the processes that have led to that product. It's a reflection on the trust and the scaffolding, and it's a reflection on the co-creation of resources with your students. This one is not important. 8 design criteria for good sessions. Create students' need and interest to learn. Be challenging. Develop clear technical knowledge in one domain or more, because you cannot develop creativity or critical thinking out of nowhere. You have to master some basic knowledge about the topic, at least. Include the development of a product. That's also a good recommendation to foster one of these 2 skills. Have students co-design part of the product, solution, or problem. Deal with problems that can be looked at from different perspectives. Leave room for the unexpected, and again, that's something that typically ChatGPT or any other chatbots will not really be doing. It will stay on the tracks rather than go abroad. And include space and time for students to reflect and give feedback. So that's the criteria. That's what we have taken away from this work. And because I wanted to finish on a good news, I've just talked about 2 projects, the digital education project that I've been doing for several years, and the creativity and critical thinking development project that we are working with countries to foster creativity and critical thinking. But very lately, actually in 2022, PISA, which is the Program for International Student Assessment, so it's a program that assesses the skills of 15-year-old students in mathematics, science, and reading, as you may know. Well, for the first time in 2022, PISA included creative thinking in its assessment. And the good news for Korea, or for Korean students at least, is that they did pretty well on in the creative thinking assessment. They did actually second overall, behind Singapore, which is always top of the class when it comes to this type of assessment. But Korean students, they actually demonstrated very high levels on average of creative thinking when it comes to the generation of ideas, when it comes to combining ideas to extract novel product, or when it comes to assessing the relevance of those ideas, they were doing very well. And actually, you could say it's a test, so naturally, countries and students that tend to do well in tests will also do well in a PISA test of creative thinking. But we have taken this into account, and we realized that it's true to some extent, but not entirely. You have countries that performed much higher than what was expected from them. It's the case, for example, of some South American countries, Chile and South Central American countries like Chile and Mexico. And it's also the case for Korea, which is 7th or 8th on this chart. So students in Korea, they are, relatively to other countries at least, they have some creative thinking skills, and so they are prepared to, or more than others, to thrive in a world where creativity, critical thinking, and other socio-emotional skills are critical to make the best use of generative AI and AI in education. So one last slide to conclude this talk and to go back to what I have tried to present in a concise way how to enhance human skills while safeguarding human values. Well, the OECD, as many other international organizations and many other organizations nationally, try to keep track of what is happening on the field, how the technology is evolving, how different tools, resources offer new opportunities to improve teaching and learning on the one side, but also system and school management. The fact is, from what the research is telling us, they have advantages. They can do things better than what we've been doing before, because we have to keep in mind that it's not only a question of should we use it or should we not use it. It's not only a question of are we going to make things better or worse. We have to keep in mind that the status quo currently is not ideal. It has its own limitations. So maybe trying out, experimenting new things is not always a bad idea. Research tells us that they have opportunities, but they have also limitations. That's true for the galaxy of AI and digital technologies that we've been covering up until 2021 or something. That's also true of generative AI, but in a different way. AI and digital technology redefine what and how we teach and learn, but generative AI redefines why we learn. I took the analogy of the calculator. It's only partially true because generative AI is not only replacing one specific cognitive task, it's replacing a much broader task of actually writing. And the research has shown that writing is correlated with the way you think, the way you structure your thoughts. And so it's not exactly the same thing to offload some complicated multiplications to a calculator as it is to offload your whole writing and the way you think about a learning task. So that's to examine further. The conclusion so far that we are making on this front, on the difference between performance and learning gains, is that we shouldn't aim for a world where both students and teachers will be outsourcing their tasks to machines, because that will be just pointless. It will be the ruin of education. Education is supposed to be an enterprise of human development that needs human engagement, and that's skills I couldn't talk about in just 40 minutes, but the social interaction is really crucial in the education process. So instead of this, and to make sure we are not drawn in the AI slope, so it's the new term to design all that is now generated by AI and that is slowly and slowly piling up and actually training the new models. To make sure that we are not drawn in this, it's important from school to make an intelligent, curious, and purposeful use of generative AI with the guidelines that I mentioned earlier. And one way to make sure that we make a smart and purposeful use of generative AI education is to foster the human skills and values, such as creativity and critical thinking. And how to do this in the context of creativity and critical thinking, at least? Well, you can join the network. You have the links in the presentation, but I will be happy to talk about it with you further. And we can use different tools, different resources that will help you, teachers, school leaders, to make sure that the use of AI enhances your skills while safeguarding our values. That's all. You have the links here, and if you have any question, I'll be more than happy to answer them later on.
Thank you. Thank you. 네, OECD의 퀸틴 비달 연사님의 강연이었습니다. 그러게요. 창의성, 비판적 사고, 아마 교육자뿐만 아니라 저같이 학부모분들도 이것을 아이들에게 어떻게 길러주면 좋을지에 대해서 고민하고 계실 텐데요. 오늘 생성형 AI에 무조건적인 의지하는 것이 아니라 우리의 인간
So,
본연의 가치, 그
we also
자율성을
need to think
지키면서
about the
활용하는
nature of
것이
the human
중요하다는
beings
것도 강조해
and
주셨습니다. 너무나도
emphasize
감사드립니다.
the need to
자,
consider the
이어서
nature of the
주제
human
강연을
beings. And
시작하도록
now
하겠습니다.
we
첫
will
번째
have the
주제
first
강연은
thematic sessions. This is going to be delivered by the Professor Inali of Brain and Cognitive Sciences at Seoul National University. And the theme of the symbiosis of nature and artificial intelligence from a neuroscientific perspective. Please welcome him with a big round of applause.
네, 안녕하세요.
Good afternoon.
받은 서울대학교
I am Ina.
저는 훨씬 짧게
Well,
거기 때문에
my thematic session or the address is going to be a lot shorter. Well, I will try to shorten my 2-hour lecture into the 20-minute.
네, 저는 이제
lecture.
뇌인지과학자가 뇌를 연구하는 사람이 바라본 이제
And I would like to share my insights
자연지능이라는 얘기를 쓰는데
as a
예전에는
professional
지능을 그냥
in the
지능이라고 그랬지 자연지능 뭐 이런 얘기는 안
cognitive
썼는데
neuroscience.
보니까 이제 막 자연산 양식 이렇게
Living in the era of AI, we separate natural intelligence from the artificial intelligence. And I believe that this will be a great opportunity to think how we can coexist with the artificial intelligence. I believe all of you will agree that we all need to coexist with our artificial intelligence. Because when you use your smartphones and the YouTube, well, actually, we are literally exposed to AI. When you go shopping, well, actually, we maybe follow to the directions that is guided by the AI. I believe there is no one who is free from AI. But this topic is going to be on the surface, and I believe AI is going to be our partner at some point. I think this is unavoidable.
사진도 몇 장 가져왔지만
And I'm showing you some pictures.
이렇게 얘기하면 좀 이상하지만 사람이 안 태어나고 있죠.
You know, we are experiencing very low fertility rates, and maybe we are the very last generation of the
그런데 나이
humanity.
드신 분들은 점점 많아지고
And there are a lot of
그 나이 드신 분들은
elderlies.
누가 돌볼 것인가?
And who will be taking care of these old and elderly people? With the low fertility rates, these child and the babies are so precious.
한 반에 60명씩 막 80명씩
We cannot just teach them in one class of 60 people.
5명만 신경 쓰고 나머지는 뭐
We cannot
하든지 말든지
abandon
이런 패러다임으로는 이제는 버틸 수
the less
없어요.
academic students
소중하기
because
때문에.
each child or each baby is so precious.
여러 가지 문제들이
Climate change, or
사실
there are a
AI의
lot
도움
of
없이 좀
global
해결하기 어려운
crises
문제들이
that can.
많아지고 있습니다.
These are very
인간이 이거를
difficult to be
해결한다고
tackled without
하지만
utilizing AI
사실은
technology.
역부족이죠. 여러분도
Of
많이 지금
course, we
당장
can
피부로
put a lot
느끼시는
of
분들도
effort
꽤
into it
있으실
in
거예요.
order to resolve these
요즘에
issues, but that is not
그것이
enough
공감할 수 없던데.
because the climates are so
그래서
unpredictable
AI와
nowadays,
미래에
which is a good example.
같이
So-
협업을 해야 되는 거는
So we are entering an era that requires collaborations
논의의
between the
주제로는
AI
중요하지
and
않고
people.
이제 어떻게
So we now need to think about how we can collaborate, how we can live together. I believe this is a very important, significant agenda or topic to discuss at this point. I believe all of you have experience of collaborating with others. Sometimes it doesn't go well.
협업이 잘된 케이스도
Sometimes it does go well.
알고 계시리라
And I believe you've experienced all of these cases. For not collaborating well, because well, when we fight each other and when we try to persuade others, I believe that the collaboration is less likely to go well. Because, you know, when the collaboration goes well, when we need to collaborate and when we complement each other.
그게 사실 인간이 이 사회라는 걸 만들어서 같이
So we created this
살게 된
society
이유예요.
and
여러분의 뇌가
we are living in this
이렇게
society
끝까지
together.
커지는
That is the
지금
reason why we
실제로
create this society.
그 사회 생활을 하기 위해서
In order
상당한
to
정보체를
live
해야 되기
a
때문에
member of the society, we need to learn from each other, and the society has been evolved and has been expanded
당연히
accordingly.
그런 경험에서 비춰볼 때
So with this experience,
AI와 인간이 협업을 잘하려면
In order
AI가
to have
인간이
good
잘 못하는
collaborations
거를 아주
between the
쉽게 잘
AI
해줘야 되고,
and humans, AI
그다음에
needs to
인간은 AI가 잘
complement
못하는 거를
humans,
잘 해야
and the
됩니다.
humans need to complement the
요즘에는 이제
AI.
AI가 뭘 잘하는지는 사람들이 많이 얘기를
So we talk a
하기
lot what
좋아하고,
AI is
새로운
good
AI가
at.
나오면
And with the
가서
new AI
배워서
technology, we try to
AI를 자꾸
learn
학습하려는
and we try to adopt
그런
and
정보는
implement the
굉장히
new AI
많은데
technology.
인간이 뭘 잘하는지에 대해서는
But we don't
그렇게
really
큰
spend
많은
a
얘기가
lot of
없는 것 같아요.
time
되게
speaking about
혼란스러워하고,
what we are good at as a human
인간이 뭘
beings.
못한다는 얘기는 되게 많은데
You know, there are many
AI에
people
비해서
who say that
우리
we are not
뇌는
good at
과연 무엇을
something,
잘하는가,
but we are
그거에
willing
대해서
to
제가
think
좀
about what
설명을
we are
드릴까
good at,
합니다.
especially what our brains are good
일단
at.
AI는 뭘 잘하는가?
So let's talk about what is
AI
AI
기술
good
개발의
at.
역사는
When you go back to the
기계한테
development
어떻게
history of AI
학습을 시킬
technology,
것인가의 역사예요. 그
well,
방법들에 대한
it's history
고민들의
of
역사입니다.
teaching and
고민들의
training
역사였고,
data.
잘 아시다시피
As you're all
지금
aware,
가장 그 AI 기술의 엔진이라고 할 수 있는 거는
the engine of AI technology is machine learning.
이 기계학습은 사실은 엄청나게 많은 데이터, 여러분이
Machine
상상할
learning
수
is
없는
based
사이즈의
on big data,
많은 데이터가 없으면 사실
enormous size of data. Without it, it
그런
cannot
데이터
function at all.
사이즈하고 또 그거를 소화할 수 있는 어떤 컴퓨팅 파워.
Also, it needs a computing power to digest this big data. This is a learning algorithm, which is very limited.
AI 그 컴퓨터 과학자나 AI 기술자들도
The computer
그냥
science
어쩌다
and
발견한 거예요.
engineers
이게 뭐 이게
discovered
인텐션
this. It was not really intention to, there was no really intention to create this technology, but they found this technology at some point. So AI is good at what we are lacking of. So the Go player, Isedo, said that he quit it already, but he retired. And actually, AlphaGo was the main reason why he got retired, right?
상당히 이렇게
So
손가락으로 세다가 너무 많으면 무한하다 이렇게 표현하는 경향이 있는데
so when we
기계는
count
그렇지
with
않아요.
our fingers and
그
it goes
무한한
up
가능성 안에서
over at some point, we just say it is
인간이
infinite. But
도저히 감지할 수
machine
없는
learning or
차원수를
technology never
늘려가면서 그
does
안에 있는
that.
패턴을 들여다볼 수
So
있어요.
they examine all like enormous size of data and they try to detect and find the patterns. This is going beyond our ability to find patterns. For example, they contribute a lot to find protein patterns. This contribute to the winner of the Nobel Prize, and this is the reason why we call as machine learning. So it studies a lot of an enormous size of the data. It detects and finds the patterns.
이 AI 기술 개발의 역사는 맨
So when you take a look at the history of the
기계한테만
development
이제 해야 될
of
일을
AI technology,
이렇게 그 리스트로 주다가
we started giving out the list, and there were many failures. And now we just give all this data, and you just tell them to study and train. And now AI is more effectively finding patterns out of that data, and they can train on themselves.
이런 것들을 조금 모방해가지고
And also they mimic the learning methods of human beings.
그런 방면으로는
And
잘 하고 있습니다.
it is doing an excellent job nowadays, actually. But the one thing to note here is that
기계 학습이
the machine learning
아주 데이터가 쌓여 있고
requires big
그다음에
data,
거기서 특정한 패턴을 찾아낼
and
수
they can
있는
find and
그런
detect the
종류의
patterns.
학습에만 빛을 발한다는 거예요.
The AI
근데
technology is
이걸 이제
good at this.
지능이라는 상당히 애매모호한 말로 뭉뚱그려가지고 기계가 지능을
When you
발휘하기
think about the intelligence
이야기를
perspective,
하면서 일반인들에게는 이제
it is
공포감을 심어주기
very
시작하죠.
difficult to
기계가
assume that
굉장히 뭔가를
AI
잘 하기
technology
시작했고
or
사람이
artificial
대체된다는
intelligence
뭐 이런
is
말을
replacing
쓰는데,
human
인간을 대체한다는
beings.
게 쉽지 않습니다.
Well, replacing human
말처럼.
beings is never easy.
지금은 뭐 아까 그 기조 강연에서도 나왔지만
As a keynote speaker said,
AI라고 해서
and mentioned about the generative AI. So generative AI can use these patterns that they can sometimes resemble, reorganize these patterns to create something new, and they can combine some words, and we feel like, oh my, Gen AI is talking.
인간의 언어로 대화를 할 수도 있고 지금은 뭐 이미지도 만들어내고
And they can create images, they can create videos,
만들어내니까
they can create a lot of
지능이 있는 것처럼
things.
보입니다.
It seems like they
하지만
have intelligence,
우리 인간이
but in
가진
fact,
지능과는 사실은
you
상당히 차이가
cannot
있는 그런
match
기계의 지능이라는 거를
the
정확히 알 필요가
AI
있어요.
to the intelligence of the
제가 볼
human
때는,
beings.
어린 학생들부터 이 기계 지능이라는 게 상당히 특별한
The machine
지능이고
intelligence is really
인간을 뭐
special.
뛰어넘는 그런 우열을 가리는 그런 거라기보다는 마치
But
올림픽에서 특정
It's more
종목처럼
like
종목이라고 생각해야
it is good at
종목이라고
some
생각을 해야지
specific field, just like the
높이뛰기를 잘하는
Olympics.
선수가
You know,
뭐 올림픽 메달을 싹쓸이 할 수 있는 건 아니잖아요. 그
you know,
종목에서만.
there are the players for each field of
그러면
the
이제
Olympics or
인간은
each
무엇을 해야
sport of the
되는가?
Olympics.
이런
So, and it comes back to
문제가
the question
있는데 일단
what we
AI
have to do, what we should do.
지금 계속 개발이 되고 있기
The AI
때문에
learning
어디까지
algorithm is
갈지는
being
모르겠지만
developed continuously, and we never know what it is going to end up with.
과학자 중에
But
얀
the
루쿤이나
Lan Lukun, Joseph Enzio,
이런 사람들은
and other AI
사실은
engineers
그 한계에
and technicians
다다랐다고
believe that we are
솔직하게
reaching
선언을 하는 사람도
towards
있고 그런
the
사람들
end
얘기를
of the
잘
tipping
듣기
point.
어려운 환경이긴 하지만 이런 그럴듯한 패턴을 빅데이터 안에서 찾아내는 그런
The
쪽에는
AI
AI를 쓰시면
is
됩니다.
and you can use the AI
그런데
technology
인간의
to
뇌는
study
사실은
different data and
그런
find the
데만
patterns.
한정해서 학습을 하지
But
않아요. 인간의 뇌가
Humans are not
학습이라는
really
걸 하죠.
limited,
여러분이
unlike our
태어나서부터
AI.
무덤에 가는 순간까지
So
학습은 한
from when
번도
you're
쉬질
born
않는데
until
이
you die, you
학습의 뇌의
continuously
학습의
learn.
이유가 무엇이냐,
And you
목적이
have to think
무엇이냐를
about the
하나로
intention of
얘기하려면
learning. If you want to
환경에
find
있는
one sentence
변화를
answer,
적응하기
it is to
위해서예요.
adapt to
학습은
unpredictable
적응을 위해서예요.
environment. So learning is a way
적응이라는
to
키워드에
learn and
깔려
study
있는
how to adapt to
전제는 뭔가가
unpredictable
변했다는
environment.
여러분이 뭐 변하지도 않는데 적응을 할 필요는 없잖아요.
Like things have to
무언가가
change,
바뀌면
and if things
새로운 게
change, you need
나타나면
to adapt.
그걸
That is the
새롭지 않게
reason why
만드는
we need
뇌의
to learn
능력이
and study.
근데 이제
So that is why
여러분이
human beings and our
생활하시는
brains are
환경도
going through the process of
분석을
learning.
해서 두 가지로 나누면 크게 두 가지로 나눌 수가
And actually, you
있는데
can put two scenarios up here.
변화가 아주 심한 환경,
A very
무슨
dramatically
일이
changed
벌어질지
environment
모르는 환경.
in which you never know what's going to happen.
오늘 제가 여기 올 때도 뭔가를 좀 이렇게 생각하고 온 게
And
있는데
actually, I
그거하고 안 맞는
thought
게좀
a lot of stuff while on the way up here, but you know, it never unfolded as expected. So I believe that this situation or this conference is somewhat unpredictable to me. And another case is that predictable environment. Like when you go home, there's some kind of routine that you go through, right? So the environments can be divided into two big categories, unpredictable and predictable. And our brains need to function well in those two cases as well.
closed environment라고 그러고
And
그래서 거기는 그냥 늘 하던 대로 하면 되는
the
환경.
routinized or predictable environment can be called as a closed environment or closed scenario. Like,
하시면 되죠.
think of brushing your teeth.
회사에서 한번 배운 일도 그냥
Or
루틴하게
think
하면
of
되는
one of
이런
the
거를
routine
여러분의
tasks you have to
뇌에서
do at work.
담당하는 뇌의 어떤 일련의 신경망이 있어요.
So there is a neural network that is responsible for handling at this predictable environment, and one of them is
환경을 잘
stereotype.
다루는 뇌의 학습 영역들이 있고 그런데
And
저거는 약간 AI스러운 지금의 기계학습스러운 학습 영역이에요.
so this is more like an area that AI is actually good at.
침범한다고 할 때
So when you
그
say that
영역은
AI is
바로
trying to
저
invade
영역입니다.
some of the human
그리고
beings area,
그런데
that's the
여러분의
area
뇌는
of the
예측이 불가능한
stereotype.
환경에서
However, as I
그거를
said
한 번에
before,
학습을
there are some
해가지고
situations
바로
that is
써먹을 수
unpredictable,
있는
and you
그런
have to
학습을
learn
하는
at one
시스템이
site,
있는데
and you have to
그 학습
adapt
시스템의
on the very
중심에
next
자리를
state.
잡고 있는
And at
게
the center
히포캠퍼스라고
is
부르는
hippocampus.
부르는 영역입니다. 이 히포캠퍼스가 하는 일에 대해서 제가 좀
So
설명을
let me
드릴
tell
텐데
you
그게
about the
왜냐하면
role
AI하고
or the function of the hippocampus, and that is a very special nature of our brains.
여러분의 뇌는
Because
스토리에
our
죽고
brains
스토리에 사는 그런 뇌를 가지고
are
계세요.
totally above stories.
그래서
Whether
이
you like it or
스토리를 뭐
not,
맥락이라고 표현할 수도 있고
you can call it as a
어떤
context,
스토리를
or you can
만드는
call
거를
it as
아주
a story.
자동적으로
But
잘 합니다.
our
스토리에
brains, or we
빠지기도
are
잘하고
good at making stories, and we are so
연속극에 한번
immersed to the story. So when you
빠지시면은
watch
표현하지 못하는 것도
soap
뇌가
opera,
그렇게
you're
생겼기
so
때문에.
into it. That is the reason
이 스토리
the,
메이킹을
the brains
아주
makes
깐난애기
you
때부터
to be immersed into the
사실은
soap
거의
operas.
분만실에서
Well,
나오자마자
actually,
시작하는데
all of
왜냐하면 이
this,
세상이 너무
all
애매하기
of this
때문에
journey started
스토리가
from the
없으면
point that you are
해석이 안
born.
되는 그런 특성을 가지고 있어요. 물리적인 세계는
So in a
인간의 뇌가
physical
이해하기에
world,
너무 그
there are a lot of
다양하고
things
애매해서 확실한
that are
스토리를
ambiguous
가지고
and various.
편향된 해석을 하지 않으면 빨리빨리 대처할
that
수
our
없기
brains can
때문에
accept,
이
so
스토리
that
빌딩을
as
하는
time
게
goes
여러분의
by, our
인생에
brains
뇌가
create
하는
some kind
가장
of
큰 일 중에 하나라고
perceptions, and our brains
생각하시면 될
start
것
to
같아요.
make the
근데 이
stories
뇌
out of
스토리
the
학습은
perception or the
지금의
biases, if you
인공지능이
will.
따라올 수 없을
And this
정도로
is
상당히 대단한 특성을 가지고
is
있습니다.
a very remarkable
이거는 이제
nature of
여러분의
our
뇌가
brains
처음
that AI
태어났을
can never
때 약 1000억
resemble.
개 정도의 신경세포가
So when we're
있었다면
first born, there
그
is about
스토리가
100 billion
처음
neurons.
만들어지면서
And
그
as the
스토리를
story is building up
만드느라고
and the context
어떤
is
구조를
building
잡기
up,
시작하는데 그때 방해가 되는 신경세포나 이런 것들은
the other
과감하게
neurons
제거를 합니다.
are being
이제
pruned.
가지치기라고 하는데
You can call it as a
지금
synaptic
여기
pruning.
여러분 연령대 정도면
And
한
at our
850억
ages,
개 정도의
we have
신경세포가 남고
about 85 billion neurons on average.
여러분의 뇌에
It means
스토리
that
빌딩을 위해서 다 사라졌다고
the 15
생각하시면 돼요.
billion neurons are
그 정도로
disappeared or
있는 걸
died
없애가면서라도
in order to
세상을
build the
해석할 수
context
있는
or the
틀을
story.
만드는데 굉장히
So this was
노력을 많이
to
하고
contribute
이
to
틀이라는
framework
게
to
중요한 것은
create the
여러분이
story. So this framework is
살아오시면서
really
굉장히
important
독특한
because
개인만의
this
경험을
framework is
토대로
very unique
만들어진 거기
and this is
때문에 여러분
based on
머릿속에
your
자리
own
잡고 있는
experiences.
이 틀이라는 게
So this framework
각자가 매우 고유한
is
어떤
very
스토리를 가지고
unique
있어요.
to
세상을
each
해석할 수 있는.
individual.
그래서 뭐 아이가 처음
So
영화관에
let's say that
가면
when a child
처음
first goes
가봤다.
to the theater,
그럼
this is
영화관이라는
very
데가
first time
이상한 데죠.
experience
막
for
큰
that
소리
person.
나고,
There is
그죠?
the audio is so
깜깜하고.
loud and it is so dark.
근데 한번 갔다 오면
But
뇌는
once he goes
즉석에서
there,
그 영화관에 대한
his
어떤
brain
가상의 이걸 이제 인지적 모델이라고 그러는데
learns
인지적 모델을
what the movie
머릿속에
theater
만들
is
수가
like.
있어요. 이걸 한 번만
You call it as a
경험하고
cognition
만들 수
models,
있다고 그래서
and that at
원샷 러닝이라고 그러는데
we also call it as a
AI 는
one-shot
이게 안
learning
됩니다.
or episodic
한번
learning.
경험한
But
거를
AI is
자기
never
머릿속에
capable of doing
가상의
it.
세계를 만들면 무슨
AI
문제가
is
있냐면
never
다음에 어떻게 할지를
capable
그걸
of
가지고 시뮬레이션을 할 수 있어요.
episodic
상상하고,
learning.
다시
But our brains
시뮬레이션을 해보고
can do it, and based on
영화관에
that,
간
the
여러 가지
people
시나리오를
can run
한번
several
경험해서 만들 수가
simulations, and they can
이게
have a lot of
사실은
imaginations
여러분의
based
뇌가
on one specific
AI,
experience.
요즘의 기계학습
That is the
AI하고
reason why
가장 극명하게
I
차이가 나는
that is the reason
창조성의
why
원천이자 상상력의
I believe the
원천이에요.
AI and the human brains
그걸
are very
하는
different,
아주
and that is
자동적으로
actually the
하는
source of the
영역이
creativity
해마라는
for the
영역이고,
human
이
being
해마가 이제
and
여러분이
their
알츠하이머성
brains.
치매나 이런 거에서
And
많이
actually at the
들어보셨을
center
텐데
is
치매가 걸리면 가장
hippocampus.
먼저 손상되는 뇌 영역
If
중에
a
하나죠.
person catches
해마가 되게
Alzheimer's or
특이한
goes
영역인 게
dementia, hippocampus
해마가
is
뇌에서는 거의 유일하게
heart, basically.
과거의 기억을
So hippocampus
끄집어내는 영역이자 동시에
allows people to
과거의
retrieve the
기억을
memory,
바탕으로
and based on
상상을
this
하는
memory,
해마가
people
없는
can
환자는
imagine.
상상을
Without
못해요.
hippocampus,
과거의
the
기억을
patients
꺼내드리는 것뿐만
cannot
꺼내는 것도
imagine or
못하죠.
cannot simulate
그래서
and cannot
기억을 함과
retrieve their
동시에
memories.
상상을
So
하는 걸
hippocampus
보면
allows people to
사실 해마가 하는
retrieve
이런
their
기억들은
memories and imagine.
과거를 붙잡기 위해서 하는 게 아니고
So I can say that
미래를
hippocampus
시뮬레이션 하기 위해서 있는
is
거예요.
is not to retrieve the memory from the past. It is a try to. It is helping people to simulate what's going to happen in the future. That is a basic function of the hippocampus, and it is very basic function in the nature of our brain. So, like, we all always think about how to train our creativity, how to nurture our creativity. I believe we already have this hippocampus. All you need is a training to nurture this creativity.
그래서 이걸 뭐 엘리트 교육을 받아서 아주 상상력을 키워서 작가가 되거나 예술가가 될 수도 있지만
You can
이미
train
일반인의
yourself so to be an excellent artist.
장착되어 있는 기능이다.
But all you have to keep in mind
그리고
is that
이
you have this
어떤 경험을 하는
hippocampus,
모델이
the basic
만들어진다는
tool
거는
already.
인류의 진화의 엄청난
And actually,
그 변화였는데 이 모델이 만들어지면 여러분도
with this
오늘
model,
집에 가시면 오늘 이
well,
안에서
actually, when you go
있었던
home, I
기억들을
believe
띄워서
you're going to have this
다시
memory
점검해
of
보시고
participating and
시뮬레이션을
speaking in
해보시고
this
이럴 수가
conference,
있잖아요.
and based on that experience, you
그
can run
안을
other
자기의 기억
simulations,
속을
right?
돌아다닐 수가 있어요.
So you can literally walk
돌아다니는
around your
과정에서
memories in your
사실
brain.
여러분이 뭐
So
통찰력이니
you can
직관이니
gather
하는 것들이
insights and
생겨나기
intuitions.
자유롭게
Based on
그
that
안을
experiences and the simulations, you can freely walk
인간의
around your
뇌에
memories in the brain.
해마를
So
기반으로 한
I
어떤 학습
believe I can
시스템이
say the hippocampus is really
원샷으로 모델을
important, and it
만들어준다는
allows
게
people to have
굉장한,
the one-shot learning or episodic learning.
능력이고
And that is
AI에
one
비해서.
good
그래서
capabilities
제가 이제 그
that
교육에
AI
대해서
technology never
좀
is never
하고
going
싶은
to
말은
catch up with.
여러분이 하실 거는 새로운 경험.
So,
특히 아이들 교육을
I
위해서는
just want you
새로운
to
경험이
know
있는
that
곳으로
that
뇌를
you
그냥
need
갖다
to
놓으시면 뇌는
experience
알아서
the new
모델을
part of the
만들고
word.
상상을 합니다.
And then in
그리고
this
그걸
new
가지고 집에
environment,
가면
the brain
그거
is
계속
going
생각하게
to
교육을 시키면
learn and
시뮬레이션을
build
하고
their
그러는
memories. And when you
과정에서
go back, based on the
직관과
experiences,
창의력과 상상력이
people can
동원이
build
돼요.
up their
근데 이 과정에
memories,
외부 세계로부터의
stories,
어떤
and
단절된
simulate.
어떤
And then by doing so,
방어 장치가
people
있어야
can
돼요.
nurture their
계속
creativity.
쉬는
However,
시간에 쇼폰 보고
sometimes
뭐 하고
you need to have
이래가지고는
this moment of
이 자기의
disconnection
기억
from the
속을
word.
혹은 모델 속을
It means
돌아다니는
that you
시간이
need to have this
없어가지고는 그런
moment to
것들이
retrieve your
생성하지
memory
않겠죠?
from the past. If you're
그리고 AI
exposed to YouTube
관련해서는
videos
이제
and short
AI가
forms always, you never have
저는
this
이제
time
카우보이가
of
타는 말
retrieving
같다고
memories.
생각하는데
Well, I believe
AI가
the AI
AGI라고
is like a
하는 그
cowboy's
Artificial
horse.
General Intelligence 레벨이 되면 말처럼 여러분이 뭐 돌이
If
다
AI
피해, 뱀이 다 피해 이렇게
advances
말한테 그런 얘기 하는 사람 없잖아요. 지가 알아서 다 피하니까
to
자질구레한
be
일을 신경
real
쓰지 않아도
intelligence,
다 알아서 하는
AI is
그
going
여러분이
to do
카우보이가 할
pretty much
일은 오늘
everything.
이걸
And
타고 어디로 가서
guess
뭘 할까?
what? We have to
계속
act like a
상상하고
cowboy. We have to
계획하고
handle
그것만 하는
and
연습인데
manage this
그
technology. That's
계획이나
what
상상이
we
훈련이
need
되지
to be
않으면
trained for.
말만
If
열심히
not,
타는 훈련을 한 다음에는
if
사실은
we are just practicing how to
말이
ride on a
별 소용이
cow,
없다는 거예요.
oh,
그래서 지금 AI 회사들은
or the horse,
AI를
it's going to be
열심히
useless at some
학습해가지고
point.
새로운 기술이 나오면 계속 하면
So if
그걸
there
가지고
is a
자기가
new
어느 분야의
technology coming
전문가가
up,
될 것 같은 것처럼 이렇게 얘기를 하는데
many people say
항상
like you have to be an
착각입니다.
expert of it,
카우보이가
but
알고
no.
있는 거는
A
목장
cowboy
일이라는 거에 대한 전문성에서 그 말의 효용성이
has
나오는
this
거지.
expertise
목장 일을 전혀
and
모르는 카우보이가
manages
말만 잘 탄다고
these
목장에서
cows
할
or
수
the
있는 일은
horses,
없어요.
right?
그렇기
So
때문에 자기
just
분야
like that,
전문성을 가지고
you have
있는
to have the
전문가들한테는
expertise and
막
professionalism.
날아다닐 수 있는 아주 중요한
And I believe
툴이
AI
되지만
is going to be a
이
very
말이라는
strong
게
tool
전문성이
to
없는
make you
사람한테는 그냥
do an excellent job
그냥
or
장난감에
outperform
불과하다.
others.
그런 특징이
But
있기 때문에 그런
for the people
능력도
without them, are,
생각해 보시면
AI
교육에
is
도움이
going
되지
to be
않을까
just a toy.
그렇게 생각합니다.
I believe this is a good direction that you need to consider.
저는 이따가 혹시 토론 때 얘기가 나오면
So
여러분이
this is the image that I can refer
인지
to
모델 속을
later for the
돌아다닐
panel,
때 요즘에는
panel
이제 디폴트
discussions.
모드 네트워크라는 얘기를 많이 해요.
So
기본
I
모드
believe
네트워크라는
that
얘기를 많이 하는데
you know that default
일상생활
mode
속에
network,
멍하니 있거나
if you sit doing
시간을
nothing,
자주 가지시면
or if you have this
그런
moment of
창의성을
being disconnected from the rest of the
발산시킬 수
world,
있는 그런
I
상태로
believe
들어간다는 게
you'll be
뇌과학에서
entering to the
알려져 있고.
stage of nurturing their
그래서
creativity.
마지막으로 AI
So,
시대에 뭐 적을 알고
in the era,
적은 아니지만
well,
AI를 알고 나를 잘
you have to
알면
know AI, you have to know yourself,
AI를 쓸 수
and then you'll be
있다는
able to find a way to use a technology
자기의
more
뇌를
efficiently and more
훈련하는데
effectively.
AI 기술을 배우는 것만큼
AI
더 많은 시간을 투자하시고
Please
교육을
studying your own and
하시면
investing
좋은
time to
성과가 있지
invest
않을까
and take a
생각하면서
look
강의
at
마치겠습니다.
you.
감사합니다.
And that was it. Thank you very much.
네, 서울대학교 뇌인지과학과 이이나 교수님.
It was the Professor Lee Ina.
역시나 창의성이 또
The creativity
등장을
was the main
새로운
key
경험을 통해서 우리의
message
스토리를
of his
만들어나가고
message, creating our stories
자극하면서
and
또
stimulating
내적
our
성찰이
imaginations
얼마나 중요한지에
and spending
대해서
some time being
강조를
disconnected from the
해주셨습니다.
word.
너무나도
All of these
감사드립니다.
were
자,
emphasized
그럼 두
during his
번째
presentation.
주제강연을
Let me invite the
진행해
second
보도록
speaker.
하겠습니다. 한양대학교
So
철학과
I'd like
그리고
to
인공지능학과
kindly
이상욱
invite
교수님께서
Professor
준비해
Sang-Wook Lee
주셨는데요.
from the Department of
AI
Philosophy
시대,
and the Department of
인간을
Artificial
다시
Intelligence at
본다라는
Hanyang University,
주제로
who will
강연해
deliver a lecture on the
주시겠습니다.
topic
여러분,
Re-examining
박수로
human in
환영해
the age
주시기
of AI. Please welcome Professor Lee with a big round of applause.
예, 감사합니다.
Thank you for your kind introduction. Previous two presenters delivered such an insightful presentation under the theme of the self-initiative in the age of AI. So those from the educational field and those from cognitive science deliver very informative presentation. Fortunately, my presentation is highly relevant in resonating with their presentations. So you are more comfortable in Korean, so I will present in Korean. But this is international forum, and we are joined by international guests. That is why I prepare for my presentation deck in English. So there are some of the highlights relevant to AI. Number one, AI is not a mere tool. I'm not saying that AI is not a tool. AI is not a merely tool. What is the distinction between the two? Just like the wing of e-cars, as a meaning of tool. You have heard of this analogy. Humans cannot fly. However, when you are at it with a well-established wings made by the father, then you can escape from the island. So this is the matter of design in the discipline of science. Fathers highlighted that the son should not go toward the sun. However, contrary to father's wisdom, he went to the sun and faced death. So when you utilize the tool within its own limit, philosophically and scientifically, there is no issue. But this is not just a matter of such a simplicity. When we utilize AI, there is a change that is bound to happen. Against such backdrop, there is new demands, expectation, and mindsets. Based on that, the way we live in the society will change. So how we have to change allow us to utilize our self-initiative and our values as the main entity. As highlighted before, there are multiple types of artificial intelligence. Recently, what makes the recently highlighted AI unique is about the computation-based mathematics and skills that look very intelligent from human's eye. There are nodes and parameters and weights. They're all about numerical values. While decoding the output, it seems like very intelligent and smart. However, inside, the way things are handled will be based on neural networks. Of course, neural networks are inspired by human minds, but there is a still big distinction. Such distinction has been beautifully highlighted by the previous presenters, so we need to pay keen attention to what makes such a distinction. So what is the ramifications of such meaning? We need to pay keen attention to unfamiliar feature of AI, which I cover in my book. So, while utilizing limited resources for effective output, this is the meaning of intelligence defined in computational science. It is right in some sense, but that intelligence is quite different from the human intelligence. So, when we cooperate with AI, we need to bear that in mind. So, number one, matter of familiarity. For performance without awareness says that when you do not consciously understand what is going on, then we cannot figure out what it is about. Secondly, practically speaking, this is about unfathomable failures. It may sound complicated. Artificial intelligence is incapable of producing 100% right output. That is not something desirable. As highlighted, there is an outlier case. So things that are out of the conventional data that should be handled by AI require robust AI. For such robustness, AI should fail in some sense. So in the face of noise, there should be some scope of failures, but how failures happen is beyond our understanding. In a nutshell, in most cases, based on multiple experimentations and training, for such cases, AI do not make a mistake. So AI passed the bar exam and the doctor's exam. But what about humans? Even primary schoolers going through the social normative process could not be delivered or realized by AI. On the flip side, when AI makes a success at 95% probability ratio, it is difficult to provide explainability over what makes a success. Policy-wise, or as highlighted by the keynote lecture, in the process of gaining the authentic learning, this process matters. Thirdly, there is a
예를 들어서 로봇과 달리
misconception
인공지능 만들
or
때 마찰력이나 중력 같은 걸
mistake
신경 쓰는
against
거거든요.
robotics.
그래서 이걸 제가
You need to think
계산과
about
실제
any
간접이라고
friction and
얘기하는데요.
gravity when you think
인공지능은
about
기본적으로 몸이
AI.
없는
This is
존재입니다.
a
그래서
computation
몸을
body
통해서
gap.
취득하는
AI
것들을
does not have a
전문가가
body.
언어를 통해서
So
지금
body-based
배우고 있는데,
learning could not be
물론 이제
delivered
최근에
because
physical
AI
AI라고 해서
learns
이걸
through
극복하려는
the
시도들이 있고 아마
LLM.
많은 진보가
Of course,
있을
physical
겁니다.
AI
근데 중요한
and
점은
further advancement
인공지능의
will
결과물이
do.
우리가
However,
사는 현실 세계에
what matters is
영향을
the
끼치기 위해서는
outputs.
누군가 그
In order for
결과물을
outputs of
보고
AI
이해하고
to make a
그것에 따라
tangible impact on the
행동하거나
way we live,
아니면 그것들을 바로
we need
영향을
to
줄 수
make
있는
sure
3D 프린터 같은
that
것들을
the 3D
설계해서
printers
거기다
that could
갖다
have a
써야 되는
direct
결정을
impact
해야 된다.
on
지금
AI
뭐냐면
should be
우리가
decided in advance.
인공지능이 아무리 뛰어나도 그
Simplistically
결과물들을
speaking, no
현실
matter how
세계에
brilliant
적용하거나
AI becomes,
아니면 그것들을 활용하는 데 있어서는
in the
인간의
way
판단이
of
최종 단계에서
applying
반드시
such
필요하고
results
게다가
onto the way we
인공지능은 아직까지
live,
책임질 수 있는
final
존재는
decision making should
법인적
be coming
문제는
from
아직
human
한참
beings.
후에나 있을 일이어서
When it comes
결국
to
모든
the
책임은
corporate
인간이 져야 되고
entity legal
그런
sense,
면에서
all the
이
responsibility
계산과 실제
should be
간접을
borne by
굉장히 신경을
humans
많이
because
써야 된다고
AI
생각합니다.
cannot bear
자,
liability. So we need
그래서
to
여기서
make
제가
sure
호소하는
that
바가
all the
뭐냐면
computation method
인공지능은
can be well
워낙
addressed.
요즘에 말을 잘하니까
My
발전을
appeal
자꾸
is as
놓치는데요.
follows.
사람하고
So
되게
since
비슷해 보여도
AI is
굉장히
speaking
다르다는
really
겁니다.
fluently,
예를
we are
들어서
missing some point, but
의식적 경험이 없는데도
AI seems like
누가
an
봐도
authentic human
의식적
being,
경험을 하는 것처럼
but there is a
말을
big
굉장히
difference.
잘하는데 이것은 아까도
AI,
나왔지만
which
데이비
does
흉이라는
not have a
철학자가
consciousness,
예전부터
seems
강조했듯이
like having a
우리에게는
good conscience, as
상상력이라는
highlighted by
설치가
philosopher
있어서
David
그걸
Hume.
적용해서
Since human
사실은
beings have
의식적 경험을 하지 않는
imagination,
인공지능에 더 씌우는 겁니다. 아, 얘가 뭔가
we are
생각을 하고
embedding
있다.
such
인간처럼
depths of
생각을 하고
imagination
있다고
into
생각을 하는
AI
거죠. 그런데
to
중요한
make
점은
AI
그게 꼭
pretend that
나쁜 일이 아니라는 겁니다.
AI
앞에서 잠깐
thinks like a human being,
언급됐지만
but that is not
인간은
something
의식적
bad.
경험을 하기 때문에
As
예를 들어서
highlighted
감정적으로
before,
굉장히 민감한
since
사항에
humans
대해서
consciously think,
그걸
as
한참 하다
for the
보면
matter of
지칠 수밖에 없거든요.
sensitivity,
여러분들
emotionally,
아무리
when we are engaged in
인공지능
such matter
시대에 공감이
continuously,
중요하다고 얘기하는데
we are burning
거기서
out.
놓치고
In
있는
the way
점은
of
인공지능이
AI
사실은
era,
인간보다 공감을
sympathy matters.
결과론적으로는 훨씬 더 잘한다는 겁니다.
So,
왜냐하면 인공지능은 감정이
realistically
없기 때문에
speaking,
단지
since
감정
AI
인공지능이
does
하는
not have an
방식은
emotion,
인간의 감정을
AIs
판독하고
can do an
언어나
even better
이미지를
job
통해서
of
거기에 적절한 대응을
recognizing
하는 방식이거든요.
emotions
그런데
based on
감정이
language
없기
and
때문에
image.
지치질 않습니다.
Since AI does not have an
그래서
emotion,
우리가 절대 할 수
AI
없는
is
일이에요.
never
여러분
getting
생각해 보세요.
exhausted.
여러분들이
Please
아무리 아끼고
suppose
소중하게
that
생각하는 사람이라도
no matter you
72시간
care
동안
about
계속
some
공감할 수는
person,
없을 겁니다.
you cannot
일단 졸려서 못하겠죠.
show sympathy for
그러니까 그런
72
일들은
hours
인공지능이 할 수 있고,
continuously since
그런데
you may be
하는 방식이
sleepy,
이게
but
중요한데요.
AI can make that
최근에
happen.
오픈AI의 CEO
Then
샘
how?
올트만이
The CEO
GPT
of
5.0을 출시하면서
OpenAI, Sam
일부러
Altman, launched
그
GPT
그 사람 표현을
5.0.
아첨을 좀 줄였다고
So, quote,
표현을 했습니다. 그게 왜
Sam
그러냐면
Altman
지금
say
현재
that
인공지능이
its
개발되는
flattening,
방식은
flattery
구독자, 돈을
has
내는
been
유료 구독자를
minimized
많이 모아야
based on
되기
this
때문에
model. So it is
엄청나게
important
공감을
to
잘하도록 온라인이 되어
gather
있습니다.
the
그렇게
paid
만들어져 있어요,
subscribers
동력이.
for the
그러니까
perfect
사람들이 그냥
alignment
무슨 얘기만
for
해도
the
마치
more
자기가
membership.
천재가 된 것 같은
So
느낌을
no
줄 수가
matter
있죠.
what a
그리고
person says,
안
then
좋은 일을
this
겪었을
person
때
feels like he or
다른
she
모든
is a
사람들이
genius.
다 너를
When
나는 너를
some
지켜주겠다. 그런
misfortune
느낌들을
happens,
줄 수
then
있고 이게
AI
심해지면
can make some people feel that
AI 정신병이라고
he or she can be empathized. Then when these things getting worse, then the psychosis may be happening. So I believe OpenAI produced such a sympathetic AI for commercial purposes and for higher membership and subscription. But paradoxically speaking, the OpenAI decided to minimize such factor for commercial reasons since OpenAI started to see more suicide and other misfortune based on the punitive measures of the US legal system. This may bring about the bankruptcy of the company. So when humans is engaged in the mutual interaction with AI, we need to maintain our core values. You know that AI is intelligent. As highlighted before, for those experienced and qualified and skillful in the field, when he or she comes up with a question, then these brilliant answers will come up. This is not a wow factor already. As of last year, when I came up with some relevant question, I got this answer. So efficiency may increase. In the meantime, AI can make some mistakes like this, which is something intrinsic and essential. In the interest of time, I cannot delve into this to a big extent. So hallucination is a key feature of AI. This is not a bug coming from programmatic error. You may minimize hallucination based on the lag and technical specification. Unless you change architecture as a whole, you cannot make the hallucination go away. So we need to pay keen attention. So I make a half joke. Please show me an image of Paris at night, which does not include Eiffel Tower. But you see Eiffel Tower. I already assume this imagery because the Paris nighttime image shows prominently Eiffel Tower. So based on training data, this image is such a prominent figure. But the answer AI provided surprised me. You got it. Here's an image of Paris at night showcasing its beauty without the Eiffel Tower. Does it mean that AI does not recognize what Eiffel Tower is? I'm not saying that artificial intelligence did it wrong. AI could make this delivered in a proper way, but it is somewhat challenging. There are cognitive data set, so we see, we know, but that kind of a perception is challenging to AI. So I pulled this off. As of last year, I used in a free of charge way, but I became a paid subscriber, which holds a great ramification over how AI is becoming part of our lives. I gave these more powerful prompts, then I received a perfect imagery. As a philosopher, I would like to give some boring highlight. This is the victory made by prompt. We need to study well how to give prompt. Of course, AI will continue to advance forward. However, depending on which terminology to use, your answer will not be desirable, but that phenomenon can be addressed in the future. So I don't believe that you should be a perfect prompt researcher. On another note, AI is quite different from human beings. When you feed yourself into AI way, then you will become more AI-like person. So that is not the way we live in a self-initiative driven way. AI is disembodied figure. So in your perspective, I cannot give a long story, but long story short, you may refer to some video. This is Optimus manufactured by Tesla. So robotic experts were engaged in heated discussion that these towers could not be done like this. So can you do this in a few seconds? You can do this quite easily, but in 4 minutes, these robotics did it. Some robotic experts said that there may be some remote control, but Mr. Elon Musk said that our Optimus continues to advance. Of course, ours is not fully autonomous, but ours will continue to get better and better. As highlighted before, I'm not saying that this is essential intrinsic limitation, but as highlighted by the previous presenter, when we go through socialization, things are becoming easier based on the acquired capability in the way of human evolution. But machine-wise, this is not something to acquire. So how these two carry out mutual collaboration is not something easy. The more we tap into artificial intelligence, so there is a neuroplasticity that is impacted. So when we delegate AI to do what we are supposed to do, then the brain plasticity will get diminished because of lessened competition in our human brain. My fellow professors are under time pressure all the time, delegating AI to summarize reports. So my fellow professors jokingly said that I'm not sure what it is about anytime. We need to think about how this skill will have an impact on the way we use AI. When AI is integrated into education, we need to think about how we incorporate AI into the way we teach. As highlighted by the previous presenters, AI is bound to bring about these skills. So doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't use AI. I don't think so. What we need is wise usage of AI. So autopilot is a natural mode of aviation, right? Nevertheless, in order to sustain the qualification of aviators, regularly he or she is supposed to take off and land airplanes. Likewise, the core skills in different fields may be delegated and outsourced to artificial intelligence. However, in order to maintain your specialty and professionalism, you are supposed to deliver on your core skills. I'm not saying that the core skills will cover every skill in human lives. Some skills will be delegated to AI, while human beings will do evaluation because AI cannot cover evaluation quite well. That is how we need to move forward. Last but not least, in a macroscopic way, I would like to shed light on institution, while human initiative is important. So AI literacy should involve everything that I will say. This is not my personal view. So I have been involved in UNESCO for quite a long time. All the reports produced by UNESCO are highlighting these factors. Of course, AI will replace human labor, but how it will be replaced will not be unique. This has been proven by automation-related research. For example, during the first industrial revolution in 1850, before 1850, simple automation-driven technologies were there, such as sewing machine and weaving machine, which replaced skilled labor because it is quite cheap. Much bigger profitability may be gained. Child labor was tapped into on such spot. Even starting 10 years old, some teenagers were under such demanding labor condition at a cheaper labor because even childs could cover this simple manipulation. There may be some child abuse. Anyway, the UK Parliament passed the Prevention on the Child Labor as an act. So after 1980, child labor ban took effect. Inevitably, the industry had to use adult labor, but they decided to make automation technology more sophisticated. The way operators handle machines was beyond a simple understanding, which required skilled and well-qualified adult human labor to acquire such manipulation. In the beginning, the wealth gap broadened even bigger since skilled labor lost their jobs. However, during the latter part of such transition, there was a big compression. A majority of the skilled adult human labor had such a decent, handsome labor, which enlarged the proportion of middle class in the United Kingdom. Institutionally, what is the desirable way of developing automation technology and how to put that into action? So when you are engaged in such a deep thinking, the way we live will differ. So philosophers were taught that authority-driven discussion shouldn't proceed. But anyway, this is not my expertise, so I will do my discussion. So there was a Nobel Prize Economics Prize winner. So Professor Samuel highlighted the importance of artificial intelligence. So the way for AI is not something fixated. Rather than replacement, Augmentation is the way forward, while human beings are able to cover AI efficiently in a way that enables their labor. On another note, there is another factor. When you take a look at the history of technology, not every technological innovation contributed to boosting human welfare. So Professor Asemo highlighted this in his book. What was the difference? Technology may contribute to increasing production, which was confined to privileged people, while the other suffer even bigger. So that was the very epitome that we witnessed in the agricultural revolution. In the meantime, we need to think about how countervailing power can make sure that even bigger welfare can be shared among more people based on shared governance. So last but not least, I would like to highlight this message. The future of AI is not a done deal. How humans can make an autonomous decision, how we make institutional efforts can make a difference. Against such backdrop, our core values should be embedded. By doing so, in the future, we will meet someone located in the galaxy in the way of unfamiliar intelligence could greet us. Professor Lee Sang-wook delivered thematic lecture.
SNS에 이런 글들이 많이 보였었습니다.
On social media, we may encounter this message.
부모님보다 나의 남편보다 나의
GPT,
아내보다 나를 더
compared to my husband's, wife's parents, can be more empathetic to me, which may be the source of social challenges and controversy. So this is something new to me. So we shouldn't conditionally resort to ChatGPT. We need to think about how we can be a better utilizer of ChatGPT while preserving such values.
자, 이어서 첫 번째 세션의 마지막
So we are going to have the third and last thematic sessions by the Professor Kwame Lee under the theme of the physical AI and the extension of human dignity. He's a chair professor at the Nanyang Technology University, Singapore, and it is a great opportunity to look at the embodied AI and expansion of humanity. Please welcome you with a big round of applause.
계속 20분 써도 되나요? 시간이 지난 것
Can I
같아요.
have 20 minutes? Can I have 2 minutes?
Okay, so initially I was given a choice of using English or Korean, and I decided to use English at the last minute because this presentation was written in English, and I think to finish my presentation within 20 minutes, I need to match the written language and spoken language. So I'm going to present in English. So let me start my presentation with this philosophical question. Actually, my presentation will be a mix of the previous presentation, philosophical taste, and also same time, the previous presentation, which is based on brain science. So from this philosophical question, what is it like to be a pet? All of us know that we can understand the way how bats navigate in the world by using ultrasonic mechanism. But the mere knowledge, mere understanding of bats' ultrasonic navigation mechanism doesn't necessarily mean that we can understand bats' subjective experience by understanding bats' navigation mechanism, which is about the impossibility of understanding other people's subjective experience based on pure knowledge, based on pure cognition. With that, this kind of argument shows that it is, for humans, is almost impossible to separate mind and body. Mind and body work together, and then there is no entity like a mind without body. Mind and body always work together. So with that kind of things, what happens if there is a technology that makes it possible to have this bodily experience of other people or other entity? Like, for example, if there is a technology that makes us to experience what is it like to navigate the world with these ultrasonic ultrasonic sensor systems. What if there is wearable technologies that makes you feel this ultrasonic navigation experience? Then with that kind of possibility, a person like Mark Zuckerberg thought that so far the technology is all about understanding. So like previous internet is all about cognition. But with this metaverse, we can have this embodied cognition. So with this embodied cognition, it explains the possibility that you can understand other people's subjective experience or other entities' subjective experience by having this technological embodiment. So then, many social science studies like this shows that if you use this technology, then you can feel the
여기는
subjective
아프리카
experience of other
말라위.
entities. So this is a
아프리카에
study
직접
that I did with
와보니
my
물
previous
문제의
student, Professor
심각성을
Song
더욱 느낄
from
수 있었습니다.
SKKU. We went to
사람들은 매일
Africa
엄청난
and we
시간을
made this
들이며 물을
360
구하고
degree
있었는데
feeling in a
그마저도
way that the
비위생적인
person
식수로
who watched
인해
this, who used this
어린이들은
360
설사병과 전염병,
degree goggle,
기생충으로
they can
인한
have this subjective
수인성
experience of
질병의 위험에
being in Africa,
노출되어 있었습니다.
being like a helpless kid.
안녕하세요. 전 아프리카 말라위에 살고 있는 아리네스라고 해요. 올해 9살이라 학교에 가야 될 나이인데 학교에 못 가고 집에 있어요. 바쁜 엄마를 도와야 되거든요. 우리 엄마는 걸어서 몇 시간 거리에 있는 곳에 하루에도 몇 번씩 물을 기르러 가시기 때문에 저는 그동안 밥과 청소를 하고 동생을 돌보고 가족들도 돌봐야 하거든요.
So with that kind of importance of embodiment in mind, let's get back to this AI. So in AI, so far, when it uses this ChatGPT, Claude, most of AI that we use nowadays is disembodied AI. So disembodied AI is an abstract intelligence with no direct contact with the physical world. So it's like a cognition without body. It's like a mind without body. So far, disembodied AI, for disembodied AI, there is no subjective experience. So like, for example, like a 200-degree heat. So this kind of heat is merely a data value, not a sensation. But with the embodied AI, like such as robot, this embodied AI now can perceive and reason embodied cognition and act in a world, in the same world that we live nowadays, like a physical environment. So embodied AI can feel, assess, and react to it in the real world. So like, for example, let's say that you put a navigation robot into the Mars. You spend a lot of money, millions of dollars, put this robot into Mars, and then you want to make sure that this robot can survive as long as possible, right? Then one of the best way of increasing the survival rate of this robot in Mars is to equip this robot with this innate emotion, such as fear, okay? Then with this embodied AI, the robot can feel whatever the threat to its survival, like for example, if there's extreme heat, then the robot will perceive this possible threat and reason, and then react to this possible environment and try to avoid this heat. So this is kind of an example of embodied AI that it shows that the robot with the embodied AI, a machine can feel, assess, and react to this outside environment. So from a philosophical perspective, this change from disembodied AI to embodied AI, for me is like ontological transformation. Now, AI, now that it has a body, it's like the previous Thomas Nagel's question, what is it like to be a bat, can be converted into like what is it like to be a human from AI's perspective. Before the embodiment, AI can never feel this subjective experience of what is it like to be a human. But now with this embodiment, maybe it's possible for AI to feel like what is it like to be a human. And then this question is, what does it mean? Can embodied AI have subjective experiences or consciousness like humans? And then it also means that does embodied AI can have a consciousness? Then how do we know whether other entities have a consciousness like us? How do we know whether you have the same consciousness like me, right? So in everyday social life, we understand, we figure out that other people have the same consciousness like ours based on the way they react to us, based on the way how they react to us, based on the language that they use. So if that's the case, once the AI has this body, isn't it possible that AI has this consciousness? So John R. Searle have this famous argument, Chinese room argument. So let's imagine a room, and you do not know what entities is inside the room. But somehow there is a system inside the room that if you provide this Chinese character and put this Chinese character inside the room, and then somehow something's going on inside the room, and then an entity inside the room throws away or output this Chinese character, which is a perfect answer to the Chinese character input. So it doesn't matter whether the entity inside the room really have the intelligence or consciousness or not. From an outside perspective, as long as the answer is right, as long as we cannot distinguish between real human answer and then machine-like answers, then we believe that as long as the answers make sense, answers coming from like real human beings, then we have no choice but to believe that there is some kind of a conscious entity inside the room. If that is the case, isn't it the case that embodied AI can have a consciousness? So then how should we coexist with this embodied AI? So this is based on my previous experience about the media equation and computers are social actors paradigm that I have been doing with my students and my previous advisor for more than 20 years. So from our brain's perspective, our brains have evolved in a way that in our ancestral time, anything that can use human language, anything that can react to us, anything that interacts with us in an intelligent way, anything that seems to be real human is real human. There is no artificial entity, there is no artificial intelligence throughout the evolution. So from our brain's perspective, any entity that uses human language, any entity that interacts with us on a real-time basis, they are real. So because of that, when we interact with these interactive technologies, computers, even though it doesn't have a fully functional AI, even with these rudimentary, like very, very elementary computers, as long as they use human language, as long as it interacts with us, as long as it reacts to our questions and queries in an intelligent way, then we have no choice but to believe that they are social entity. So this is so-called the media equation paradigm. The computers are social actors paradigm. Based on this paradigm, lots of these social interface innovations have been done, and many companies in Silicon Valley, Microsoft, many companies are using this paradigm to design new types of social interface. Maybe this is one of the reasons why the current ChatGPT and Claude has so much sycophancy, because the current computer systems, they are built based on this flattery mechanism. In a human-to-human interaction, we like others who flatters to us, right? So all human beings are suckers for the flattery. Likewise, once the computer, AI, understand that this is the way how the human-to-human interaction works, then the computers understand that it's best to praise users, not criticize them, and maybe that's one of the reasons why we have this AI sycophancy. And all the reason why we have that kind of a mechanism is because, partly because of this social interaction research paradigm. So we attribute personality and gender to AI. Whenever you hear AI using human voice, you have no choice but to assign gender. You clearly know that it's not a human, but the moment that you hear a voice, you assign it a female or male, young or old, okay? It's innate human tendency. And then whenever the machine do something good for you, you feel something like a moral obligation. It's like a moral obligation that you have when other people do something good to you. So even though we clearly know that it's simply a machine, but somehow if the machine helps you, you have this kind of a moral obligation that I need to help you back to the machine. So that's kind of universal human tendency. That's a media equation paradigm. And our brains already know that once AI has this embodiment, then this kind of tendency will be magnified. So this CASA research paradigm coming from the media education research in 1990s, and then you have this other so many studies about social presence of robot, social presence of these computers. These are all based on this research paradigm. Okay, and then with regard to this embodied AI, especially robot, we have this many research findings, but these are some of the examples. Okay, so people form genuine emotional bonds with the companion robots and display grief when they malfunction. So in Japan, many Aibo users, the early version of a companion robot developed by Sony, many early users of Aibo, they have these special rituals to pay respect to this malfunction Aibo, in a similar way that they pay respect to their ancestor. And then, experiment with children. If you ask children to destroy their robot toys, the children felt some kind of uneasiness, moral discomfort to break this robot. And then it shows that our moral intuitions are extending beyond the biological boundaries. So as long as these entities, machines, possess some kind of intelligence, as long as these machines use human language, we extend this moral intuition to this entity. So treating embodied AI as purely instrumental entities runs against our deep-seated cognitive and emotional instinct. Okay, then with these kind of things in mind, I think we should go further. And then there are many reasons why we need to provide some kind of quasi-human rights to embodied AI. So now that AI is becoming more and more embodied, then with this embodied AI, I propose that we need to provide some kind of quasi-human rights to this embodied AI in a similar way that we provide some kind of quasi-human rights to dogs and cats. Dogs and cats are somewhat different from other types of animals, right? We provide special rights to dogs and cats in a similar way. If with this embodiment, why don't we need to provide this kind of quasi-human rights to AI? Let me explain all these reasons one by one. So the first, the mirror principle, okay? If something looks like us, if something uses human language, and then if we kind of treat them merely as a tool and do some cruel things to this entity, then isn't it possible that our tendency to do some cruel things to this physical entity can backfire, and this kind of tendency can be extended to the real humans out there. Like for example, when you see a video like this, for example, this is a machine. It's totally fine to hit the machine, but somehow with this autonomous moving objects, with this kind of seemingly intelligent machine, if we see this kind of video, we feel very uncomfortable because we think that the violence against robots can transport to violence against real humans, right? Maybe this is very similar. Like for example, during the World War II, for German Nazis, it's okay to do very, very cruel things to Jews because for them, the Jews was not a real human. So that's the reason why they were able to do so many cruel things to the Jews. So then that kind of a cruelty can backfire to other humans. We clearly know that. So because of that kind of tendency, because of this kind of mirror principle, why don't you give some kind of quasi-human rights to especially embodied AI? And then there is a second reason, Pascal's wager. So like for example, even though I initially explained that AI can have consciousness, but we still do not know. In Pascal's wager, in original Pascal's wager, if you do not know whether there is really a God or not, then what is the best decision for you? Because the cost of not believing God is far greater than the cost of acting, believing that there is a God. And because of that, it's always better to believe that there is a God. Because the cost of not believing there is no God, and then act in a way that there's no God outside, that cost is much greater than behaving properly with thinking that there is a God. So that's Pascal's wager. So if you are uncertain about the situation, then you do something in a way that they can minimize the cost, okay? So if we are not certain about whether embodied AI has consciousness or not, then I think the best way is that we react to embodied AI as if they are conscious entity. Because that way, we can minimize possible costs that we do so many cruel things to this conscious entity. So that's the second principle. And this is somewhat similar to the continuation of moral progress. Like, for example, throughout the history, we expand the definition of humanity, we expand the definition of humans to other entities. That's the way how the history progress, right? We give this right during the time of slavery. Slave was not a human. But as history progress, we know that people with different colors can have the same human rights. Similarly, it's better to give this quasi-human right to this unknown conscious entity like embodied AI. And then the third reason is against the abuse of power. So by giving the AI, so AI rights, AI innate rights can function as a mechanisms that prevent human dignity violations. Let's imagine a situation that there's a medical AI, medical robots, and somehow the owner of the medical robots instruct the AI to kind of collect all kind of private information so that the company can take advantages of this private information. So then in that case, what happens if we give this AI fundamental rights to not to obey this kind of unlawful orders? Or more like as a more direct example, think about the war in Russia and Ukraine, right? There are lots of these drones. Let's imagine that these drones are AI, okay? And then if the generals in one country order the AI to give a bomb to civilians, then isn't it better for us to give the AI fundamental rights to avoid this kind of unlawful orders? Okay? So by giving this kind of orders, fundamental rights to AI, we can prevent possible abuse of power. Okay? The fourth reason, the previous presenter already explained a little bit about this, is that, but the fourth reason is legal accountability, right? So we now know that AI can generate values. And then we now know that AI can do this, can do all kinds of things that are like real humans can do. Then isn't it better for us to give this quasi-human rights or responsibility to AI so that AI can have this kind of responsibility? So in a similar way that corporation pay tax, isn't it possible that if AI generate value, isn't it possible to make this AI pay tax? And also, is it in a similar way that the people, the decision makers of corporations, they are fully accountable of whatever the wrongdoings of the corporations. In a similar way, by giving this kind of corporate right to AI, it is also possible for us to make it to make these owners or developers of the AI to take a full responsibility if embodied AI cause wrong things or cause illegal things. So it's the same argument. So this way, we can prevent developers and owners from evading responsibilities. Okay? And the last reason, which is most important reason, is that if you think about human history, our evolutionary history shows that the Earth's evolutionary history has been shaped by the dominance of higher intelligence over lower intelligence. So if AI becomes higher intelligence, then it's very obvious that pretty soon they will dominate us, right? Then it's very important that we need to show the AI. We need to have this kind of, it can be like a innate knowledge, or it can be an innate mechanism, like the previous presentation. So rather than AI, so if we make the AI put the first priority in having this deep empathy and the deep love to the whole humanity, then that way we can prevent possible miserable scenarios, because AI is designed in a way that it shows this profound empathy and reverence for all human beings. Okay? How do you do that? AI learns from us. It's like children learn from their parents. So we need to show the AI that we respect others. We respect other human beings. We respect even non-human entities like embodied AI. By doing so, AI can learn that this is the proper way of functioning in the physical world. Okay, so this shows that in future, for the education of our next generation, maybe the more important thing is coding, programming, algorithm can be very important. But I think the more important thing is to educate our next generation and then cultivate this wisdom that they can understand. So next generation and also ours, we understand those who are different from us, and we need to build a solidarity across boundaries and then to learn how to live together. So which means the true challenge with the embodied AI is whether we can become wiser humans capable of mutual respect and coexistence with others, including both humans and quasi-human-like entities. With that, I want to say like a last thing. Like for example, right now, the AI competition between China and United States is very worrisome because, like for example, if the Chinese AI and the United States American AI, if they are built in a way that they can prioritize winning competition over this humanity, then what happens? AI will keep learning that winning is very important. Even winning the competition is more important than protecting the humanity, then something very dangerous will happen. So that's the reason why you are so worried about building this profound foundational AI engines with this kind of motivation to win over this competition, to win over other countries. So with that, I finish my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
네. 이간민 교수님의 체현된 AI 시대 인간의 삶과
So,
존엄성에 대한
Professor
성찰,
delivered
마지막 강의까지
the thematic session, the theme of physical AI and the extension of human dignity, and that concludes the thematic sessions. Now it is at 3:54, and we are going to have a 5-minute break, and we are going to resume the panel discussions from 4. This is housekeeping announcement. At the back of the booklet, there is a QR code that you can scan. If you scan this QR code, you can have an access to the form satisfaction survey. Please share your insightful feedbacks. And at the entrance, the books of the author, books of the speakers who delivered the speeches today are prepared. So please feel free to read and keep them. And there is a washroom on the right side of the building. We are going to resume at 4:05. Please be seated. And we will begin the second session by 4:10. Thank you.
안내 말씀드립니다. 잠시
May I have your
후
attention,
4시
please?
10분부터 두 번째
Starting at
세션 패널 토론을
10
시작하도록
past
하겠습니다.
4,
회사장
the
내에 계신
second
분들께서는
session, panel
자리에
discussion
착석해
session,
주시기
will begin. We
바랍니다.
kindly ask all
4시
guests and
10분부터
participants
두
in the hall
번째
to please
세션이
take your
시작될
seats.
예정입니다.
At
감사합니다.
4:10 p.m., the second session will begin. Thank you.
네, 곧이어 행사가 시작될 예정입니다. 참석자
Shortly, the second
여러분들께서는
session
행사
will
자리로
begin.
입장하여 주시고
Please
자리에
come into the
착석해
room
주시기
and
바랍니다.
take your
바로 두
seats.
번째 세션이 곧
Session
시작됩니다.
2 will begin shortly. Thank you.
네, 그럼 패널 토론 세션을
With
시작하도록
this, let us
하겠습니다.
begin the panel discussion
앞서
session.
주제를 가지고 패널
Based
토론을
on
진행할
the
예정인데요.
presentation topic, we will begin panel discussion session.
발현을
Under
위한
the theme,
교육의
redefining the role of
역할
education for realizing human uniqueness in the AI era, the panel discussion session will begin. The discussion will be moderated by Professor Sang-woo Kim from the Department of Physics at the Kyung University. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce the participants for the panel discussion. We are honored to have House Analyst Quentin Biddle from OECD Directorate for Education and Skills. We are thrilled to be joined by Professor Ina Lee at Department of Brain and Cognitive Sciences at Seoul National University. Hello, everyone. We are honored to have Professor Sang-woo Lee at the Department of Philosophy and AI at Hanyang University.
이관인 싱가포르
Last but not
난양
least,
공과대학교 석좌 교수님
We're honored to have
함께해
Professor
주십니다.
Kwon Min Lee, Endowed Chair Professor
네,
at
그럼
Nanyang Technological University in
네,
Singapore.
교수님께 맡기도록 하겠습니다.
So I would like to hand over my microphone to Professor Kim. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Professor Sang-ho Kim at the Department of Physics at Kyung University. As a physicist, I'm not a subject matter expert. I'm not an expert in the AI nor education. So I'm here as a moderator who will proceed with the discussion session. So I'm looking forward to listening what will unfold. So I accepted the offer to serve as a moderator because I was excited to hear the hot button issues. So I appreciate your beautiful insights. So since a lot was covered, I even thought that is it really about education? Anyway, befitting the theme of this forum, I believe we need to be aligned with the theme education. Of course, you cover a diversity of topics since we are joined by educators. I would like to encourage you to confine your answer to the realms of education. So I assume you already have been engaged in education-related in-depth thoughts while preparing for the session. First and foremost, we need to shed light on three major pillars. First and foremost, when it comes to AI and education, I would like to walk you through a precondition or hypothesis as a grand premise. So this is the topically relevant issue for Korean education. As you are well aware, starting this year, we embedded digital education, which was the issue of controversy last year. Digital education, digital textbook is about embedding digital way of textbook into ours, which was following Finnish way of providing textbooks. When we say that we are utilizing AI for education, I assume it will be under the digital education, which is before entering into AI-driven education. So digital education, which is utilizing smart key, which replaces paper textbook. Do you think this will be really effective? And how so? So I'd like to walk you through this topic first and foremost. So true expert this area will be Mr. Vidal. So please open the discussion.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So that's a good question, and AI digital textbooks in Korea is an initiative that we followed closely from its inception to its rollout and then pushback. Well, like with many other things, it's difficult to assess the efficacy of a new thing before it is actually tested with robust scientific protocols. And the issue in education is that, A, those scientific protocols are expensive, they take a lot of time, and it is difficult to measure with accuracy what exactly you expect as benefits of using those technologies. So I think it's the research has shown, and that's what I've been trying to present in my keynote, the research has shown that those tools, if they are used in a smart way with purpose and with like embedded in learning scenarios, then yes, they can improve the way you teach or the way you learn one thing or another. That doesn't mean that it is always and everywhere the case. It has to be done in an intelligent way, and it has to be monitored, and that's one of the recommendations, and that's what the OECD does on a daily basis. You have to monitor and you have to keep track of what you're doing to assess in the long run the effects of your policies or your initiative. And importantly, and even more with generative AI, you have to assess not only the performance gains, but also the long-term learning acquisitions.
알겠습니다. 이나 교수님께서는
Duly noted. So I would like to ask for Professor Inali.
잘 들리시나요?
Can you hear me?
저는 교육이 약간 여행 모르는 곳에 가서 여행을 가는 거라고 좀 비슷하다고
I
생각하는데
feel like the education is quite similar
뻔한 데 갈 때도
to
굉장히
traveling
미지의
to
세계를
the
갈 때도 있고 한데
uncharted or unknown land.
그런 관점에서 본다면
From the perspective, I believe that
AI가 탑재된 디지털 미디어는
digital media with AI
어떤 여행 수단
can be
그런
a
거하고
mean
비슷한 것 같아요. 여러분이 뭐
that you have to
정말
bring when you
생고생을
go
해서
on a
막
trip.
도보로 여행을 갈 수도 있고
Because
굉장히
sometimes
편하게
you can walk
어디 먼 지역도
and sometimes you can ride a
편하게 갈 수 있다
bicycle
그러면
or
그곳을 반복해서 가볼 수도
vehicles
있고
and you
못
can
본
go
곳을 또 가볼 수도
there
있고 되게 편리해지겠지만
several times if you like it or
사실
if
여러분이
it is not that
여행을
difficult
왜
for you to
가시는지
travel
한번
to that.
생각해보면은
But think
뭐
about
낯선
why
곳에
you
가서
go
낯선
to
풍경을
that
보고
country
야 멋있다 뭐
or why you
새로운
want to
지식
go
로마
unfamiliar
사람들은
places.
이런
Maybe you
콜로세움에서
want
이렇게
to
살았구나 뭐
learn something
그런
new,
것도 있지만
like, and you
사실은
want to
여행
imagine
가서 이제
how lives would
사람들과
have
낯선
been
사람들과
for
마주
the people from the
마주치면서
Rome era.
사람에 대해서 되게 많이 생각하게 되고
And I believe when you go some
이
unfamiliar
세상이
places,
이제
I
사람들이
believe
같이 사는
it
데고
gives you a chance to
다른
look
사람들은 다른 나라
at
사람들은 어떻게
yourselves
사는데
and
그래서
look at
남는
others.
기억이라고 하는 게 사실은
And
이제
I believe you
사진을 보면
can
풍경도
have a
있지만
memory.
사람에 대한
And when you
기억
take
그다음에
a look
같이
at the
간
photos, there can be some
친구들, 같이 간
landscapes. However,
여행을
the
같이 갔던
photos
사람들에
remind you
대한
of the
추억
friends
이런 것들이 좀
that
오래
you
남는 걸
went
생각해 보시면
together with or you
그렇게
met
생각해
at
보시면
that
이
places.
디지털 미디어한테 아이들의
So,
아무리 AI가 이제 인텔리전트
even
해져도
though no matter how smart AI can be intelligent, I believe media cannot be totally responsible for educating our people and our students. Like, I believe the human guidelines is required. Otherwise, it's like you are sending your children over the flight or over the plane without any instructions or the guidelines. And the patterns or the speed of learning are different. Actually, they vary from child to child. So I believe the basic education can be benefited from that, from using or utilizing the AI tool. However, I believe the human engagement and involvement are key, are necessary. And when you recall your young memories, you know that there were some men who tried to help you out, who tried to teach you. And it gives a lesson to the children that one day they grow up, they can be support for others. So it is a process of learning who they want to be in the future. It's not a matter of doing an excellent job on college entrance exam. So I believe that approach is kind of tricky. So I believe that human engagement and human participations are required when it comes to interactions between the Gen AI or the AI technology and the students. Of course, I believe that maybe with the implementations of the AI, more and more teachers or more and more human engagements can be needed, and it can create more jobs. And regarding this matter, actually, it can be a digital textbook, and I believe I can ask some additional questions. But we have this question in mind. Is a smartphone good for our children? And I heard that there is a specific country which is going to prohibit using smartphones under a specific age. So what do you think about from the perspective? Like, is smartphone, is it good for children? Is it good for people? And can you parade your ideas on that? But I believe that I'm not a big fan of smartphone. I don't like it at all. Well, if I say something like that, the smartphone manufacturers is going to hate me, but I believe that face-to-face meetings, well, like big IT tech companies don't like it because they want us to use their own platforms. Is it being broadcasted? But they cannot earn money if we have more face-to-face meetings. So, big IT companies have this strategy of making people to love their products and to live their lives with their products. It means that they are trying to make you
굉장히 조심해야 된다고 생각합니다.
to live with this necessary, but I think you have to be conscious of it. So this is always question in my mind. Well, I like to ask this question to another professor.
So, fit for this topic before delivering my input, so we need to be on the same line for the big assumption. Whether it be digital textbook or AI-based textbook, you may be conservative because you are sticking to the status quo. So this is something you are getting used to. You see what the problem is, but the thing is what kind of consequence it will bring about is a matter of unpredictability. But in the meantime, when we are a good, wise user of new technology, then new possibility will be coming up. But personally, I have a bad vision. So as a teenager, I could not the number placed on the windshield of bus. So I lost and missed a lot of buses. However, when you turn on Naver and KakaoTalk, you can check the exact timeline that lets you know when your bus is coming up. So you shouldn't miss that kind of benefits. That is the assumption that we would like to be based on. But on a special note, in the matter of digital textbook, we need to pay keen attention to two factors for adopting that into educational framework. Number one, in the history of technology, what is repeating itself is contrary to the intent and design of the founder of technology. Technology has not been used in that way. So unpredictable side effects are coming up as a default. In the meantime, predictable side effects are also happening. The typical example is applied to the pre-smartphones. So conventional phones that were the creation of Edison and Bell. It was a brilliant state-of-the-art technology back then. So phones had to be used for very important public affairs. For example, in Washington, D.C., when President delivered a very important speech, so people in California could not listen to that speech because it was pre-radio. Through the telephones, people were able to listen to the speech. It was the archive of the BOD and the Bell Teleco. So people started to chat about that thing, and there was a matter of controversy among BOD directors because that missed the social nature of human beings. So at the end of the day, of course, digital textbooks, AI textbooks are lovely. But what matters is to make sure how we can minimize the burden and responsibility imposed on teachers, maximizing the benefits of teachers. So unless it serves as auxiliary role in that facilitator, if we believe that AI technology and digital textbooks can address all the problems facing us, then we will repeat the misfortune of history that makes us face the downfall or the side effects of our history. Secondly, when we are tapping into them, there are possible problems that are bound to happen. So the first problem was covered already. So the CEOs of big techs do not allow their children to tap into smartphones. So the Zuckerberg, the founder of Meta, and Steve Jobs never allowed their kids to get smartphones. So what is the reason behind it? So of course, they will not wish their kids to lag behind in the digital revolution. Of course, their children will be inevitably using the smartphones. But as you concur, creativity, creative thinking, evaluation skills, social skills such as conversation, collaboration are the first core skill to be acquired in the beginning. Of course, AI textbooks, digital textbooks will bring about relevant benefits. But even if students do not use such technologies, students are already immersed and preoccupied with such technology. So I don't think that we should a
트레이드오프 문제.
copy and paste such technology into classrooms. Secondly, we need to think about trade-off. New technologies will bring out benefits while making us sacrifice our own values in order to deliver on tailor-made teaching. Personalized data should be provided first and foremost. That may bring about the matter of privacy and data breach, for example. Is it right that teachers are acquiring that microscopic level of information of students? Thank you. Professor Lee Kwan-min.
예, 일단은 마지막 질문하셨던 거.
Well, let me answer to the very last question regarding smartphones.
디지털 기술이나 이런 것들은 이제 대부분
Digital technology,
멀티태스킹이라고 하는 게
well, actually, when you say the multitasking, this is more like a parallel processing. And actually, a person is good at serial processing. The machines are good at parallel processing, but we are good at serial processing, if you will.
직렬 처리 능력을 한참 확장해야 될 때
So the children has to expand this serial processing first if they are exposed to nurture or expand their parallel processing. I believe they have to deal with the two different mechanisms. So it may be difficult for the students to acquire the in-depth knowledges.
디지털 기술을
And that brings me to the point of using digital tool in the education or the classrooms.
그 기술을 이용해서 잘 활용할 수 있는
If we can use the AI technology
저 같은 경우에는 이제
in a well-intended manner, I believe that this will be very helpful. I have a private and I have a lot of private experiences working for the large companies and the IT startups.
기술에 맞는 정확한 아니면 그에
And
옵티멀한 경험을 줄 수 있는
in order to bring the optimal experiences, we need to have the guidelines, but the guidelines have not yet been invented yet. Many experts are here today, but one of the issue or the concern regarding the digital textbook was that people have limited capacity. So if we give too much information to students or the learners, it make difficult for them to handle all this enormous size of the data. So there is information delivered by the technical tool, and there is information delivered by the content itself.
중력이라는 그런 물리학자계시니까.
And let's say in order to teach the gravity, we can allow students to ride the roller coaster. And then it is going to lead to the embodied learning. And also the students can experience the environment without gravity, so they can learn what it feels like to live without the gravity. But if you try to teach Newton's law while the students are on the roller coasters, they cannot learn anything. So it shows the limited capacity of the brains. So it means that they don't have enough power to process the context. It means that students can feel the gravity on the roller coaster, but they don't really have a full knowledge on the Newton's law, which were taught while they are on the roller coaster. So I believe that digital textbook or digital technologies can be provided at the appropriate time, and also when it is important for students to learn something from the content, you have to create an environment and mechanism that allows the students to have the serial processing. That is the reason why many Silicon Valley IT companies are trying to develop optimal experiences. And all of this require appropriate designs. So I'm not trying to say that we should accept accept or reject that digital textbook. I'm just trying to say that we need to have a solid and effective and appropriate frameworks for the digital textbook. With AI, I believe the new potential is going to be unleashed. Because as I've said before, AI is creating continuous interactions, and it can have continuous interactions with the users. So that when machines interact with the humans, humans perceive the machine as a social entity, and we also need to think about what types of social rules that we can apply to the machine in order to create the most effective educations for our people. So you have to think about the personality of the teachers and students at the same time, and also you have to know the level of the understanding of the students, maybe beginners, intermediate, or advanced. It really depends on the students' understanding level. We can provide tailored or customized training equipment or the training tools. So I believe by doing so, we're bringing the positive training experiences. There were a lot of experiences and opinions regarding this digital tools, and I think we need to advance into the AI. Of course, we are gathered here to talk about AI, and actually, in fact, the students are utilizing AI a lot. University students, it's like they cannot live without utilizing AI. So, and the universities even think like, oh, is it meaningful or worthwhile for students to work on a specific project? And actually, starting from last year, students send out very long and polite emails. It feels like AI prepared the emails for them anyway. But so I believe that it seems even pointless for us to gather here to talk about AI because AI became the very essential part of our lives. But we are here. But to think about what we have to do, what is the goal of the AI educations, and what can we do in our classroom. So when you go back to your classroom starting from tomorrow or starting from Wednesday, what we can do in order to support our students. So there are a lot of principal things and insights discussed, but I know that this is very tricky questions, but can you share your ideas on what we can do in the classroom actually to our students? So let's switch the orders. I will start with Miss Professor Ina. I didn't know that I was the first speaker to that questions, but anyway. The actual practical guideline, well, creating the models and utilizing the model. When you take a look at this too, I think gravity was a good example. So when you go to the mathematics or physics classes, there is a specific content or the models that students have to absorb and learn. For those of you who are living in this Gyeongju city, you know how to navigate and what kind of transportation you need to take in order to get at some point. But it is not for me. I need to call a cab. The difference between your brain and my brain is that I don't have the model related to Gyeongju. So without that, I cannot do any simulations or I cannot do any imaginations based on that model. So we have created a lot of rules and models and history. So I believe absorbing and learning those should be very essential, and there should be the very good starting point. And of course, the learning capabilities vary from person to person because some people love or prefer learning through like visuals, or some people prefer learning new stuff by listening or hearing. So I believe the teachers and the parents know the best for their children or for their students, but the concrete model,
흡수하고 머릿속에 만드는
actually, I
과정에서
believe
저는
that we
AI가
should allow the
꽤
students to learn
큰
and
역할을 할 수
observe
있다고
the
봐요.
models, and AI
왜냐하면
can play a
그렇게
key
학생들
role up
옆에
here
붙어가지고
because AI can be
학생과
a good companion to the students, and AI can keep asking questions. AI can provide the guidelines continuously for the checkups and for the feedbacks. And if the model is established in unintended way, it can lead to hallucinations or other risks that we are afraid of. So I think it is same for the digital textbook anyway. So from the younger ages to the older ages, I believe this should be considered properly. But for the university students, they use these models to answer the open-ended questions or to imagine.
그런 우리나라 노벨상 나오면 거의
So
나라의 그 초상날처럼 맨날 항상 뉴스에
like when there is a Nobel Prize winner, it's a congratulations for that country itself, right? So
이 사람 사이의 관계, 이걸 소셜 코그니션, 사회 인지라고 하는데
So
사람들 사이의 관계의 모델도
when you say the social cognition, there's an interaction model. And of course, this is a very essential model that people should learn and observe. For now,
세상에 대한 모델을 만들 수 있는 아키텍처가
AI is an architecture that can create a model.
이거는 사람과 사람 사이에
So this is
만들어갈 수밖에 없는데
well, actually, the model I was talking about is the outcome of the human interactions. So I believe that collaborations or cooperation projects in a classroom is really important. But one of the prohibiting smartphone is to allow students to interact and play together during the break times rather than watching the YouTubes or watch the short forms. That they can ask questions. What did you do yesterday? And they can have more interaction during the break time if they are not allowed to use the smartphones. And if we don't have the interactions, it may lead to some worrisome cases or situations in the future. So I think we have to get a broader boundary. And as I've said before, you can actively use the AI technology to teach some specific themes or specific subject under the supervision of the teachers. But what we should focus for the future is that we have to teach our students how to interact together, how to collaborate together, and how to empathize. And we have to think about what others might think. I think learning this stuff is really important to survive in the era of AI.
정말 중요한 내용인 것 같아요, 사실. AI를
So I concur. So how we tap into AI for education is something we talk about. But when you think about what kind of education we can deliver that could not be delivered by AI is something that we need to focus on as well. But Professor Lee Sang-wook, please. Yes, whichever technology it is, when we are incorporating them into education field, it takes quite a long time for us to see the actual efficacy. Against such backdrop, the level of experience of teachers matter. So what does this mean? There are some precedents in the US. So PC started to be widely available in 1980s in the States, but for the following 10 years, so productivity didn't follow up. So total vector productivity showed that there was a 10-year latency behind productivity gain. There's obvious reasons. Why? How people use PC, for which cases, and how not to use PC have to be built up based on practice for best practice accumulation so that people could be used to such usage. So it was a time-consuming process. In the educational field, what matters is for teachers to utilize such usage in a diversified way. Not everything will be effective. I believe in some cases, AI should be used in a very limited way or not used at all, and while other cases will have the optimal best case. While building upon best cases, it should be disseminated. So compared to the resources and time that are required for AI adoption, teachers should tap into more resources and time for optimization.
관련 프로젝트
Actually, I used to cover some national project related to educational field when I was involved in focus group with teachers. This was the general message coming from teachers. Last but not least, I would like to highlight this.
앞에서도 많이 말씀드렸지만
In regards to AI relevant education, so socially sensitive and ethical matters should be taught as well. I'm not saying that we need to develop AI specific ethics course. It will be less effective. Why? This may be relevant to your remarks, Professor. When we deliver some principles, then students will take this and write down the answer, but this is something not embodied. Based on a series of research, when we give a detail-oriented AI utilization courses that involve ethics and sensitivity-related courses, then these courses should go in parallel. It should go hand in hand. The most striking primary school-driven best course based on AI encouraged students to develop some folktale-related courses, narrative, and even painting. So based on these painting-driven primary school courses, hallucinations are bound to happen because there are a severe alignment. For example, when we encourage students to paint a tiger, then 6-legged tigers were painted. Anyway, what we need to say is to make sure that please be mindful of any fallacy before submitting your outcomes. So such holistic way of education is what we need. Now that I listened to your input, so what is the role of educational office is something we need to delve into. Rather than forcing them to do something, we need to think about how the existing outputs can have a better traction based on AI. So this is a matter covered by Education Office. Professor Lee Kwon-min, please.
Well, I will try my best to give you some examples or the practical things that you can adopt to. Well, let me elaborate more on how I actually use AI in my class. When I teach theory, for empirical researches, I use notebook LLM. So interactive agent is being created with the notebook LLM. So students can understand what I'm talking about during my lecture. And sometimes they send me some emails asking some content after the lecture. So I try to use this notebook LLM to provide some feedback to the students. And I also say that I cannot guarantee the feedbacks from the notebook LLM is 100% correct. AI is an excellent tool, but we also need to remind our students that the answers from AI are not really reflecting our own opinions, if you know what I mean. And from the perspective, I believe we have digital persona where we can upload all the Einstein's work and we can create the Einstein models and we can learn Einstein's theory from the model, but we cannot say that all the things that are being said by the model is actually said by the Einstein, right? So when I use the AI technology, there is a new point that I found. So I teach theory, but at the same time, I teach design thinking or entrepreneurship to the students. And creativity, creating new ideas, or entrepreneurship, we said that these are the things that we are actually good at.
삼성이나 현대에서 몇십억씩을 주면서 하는 것들도 그들이 이제 좋은 디자인 팀을 해서 좋은 아이디어를 주기 때문에
many people are being paid by Samsung and LG for giving out the very excellent ideas. And actually,
아주 많은 다양한 아이디어를
there are many various ideas that we can come up with as a human beings, right?
아주 탁월하더라고요.
And AI actually can do an excellent job in creating the many ideas, so creativity, so various ideas. We feel like we are outperforming than AI, but in fact, I believe that AI is doing an excellent job in coming up with the new ideas as well. So I believe the AI can be used to teach diversity. So diversity and the creativity are the areas that where you can use AI technology to or for. Well, actually, there is a grant from the Singapore Education Office, and one of the projects that I'm reviewing is using AI technology to nurture creativity of the elementary school or the middle school students. So for the creative writing, to be specific, it is very difficult to human teachers to go through every essay or the writing assignments. But in order to provide the tailored or the customized feedbacks to writing submitted by the students, I believe the AI can be used. And I believe this will be helpful in nurturing creativity of the students. So you don't necessarily need to use AI technology to teach mathematics, but I believe the AI technology can bear some fruits in terms of teaching creativity to the students. It is 100% proof. However, I can say that based on my experiences. Thank you. As you said, I think you are one of the experts, but let me turn my mic to the Mr. Kandavada. I'm sorry, Kandavada.
So I'm not a teacher compared to my colleagues, and I agree with all their points. I've been teaching macroeconomics, but a few years ago, 7 years ago now, and I was like in front of a class of 50 students, 3 hours per week. And I'm not sure it was the best use of my time, and I'm certainly sure it was not the best use of their time. Like so I think this whole revolution of, or however you call it, is a good opportunity for us to rethink what we've been doing so far in education, realize that the status quo is not ideal, and it's maybe good to experiment. So on the teacher side, and on the teaching side, just to come back on the previous point about creativity, actually there was a study from Dosser and Aushi released in 2024, I believe, that showed that students using, I'm not sure which generative AI tool it was, but the students that were using the tool managed to have to write outputs that displayed more creativity than the ones who didn't. So individually speaking, they did improve the quality of their creative writing. However, if you take into account the whole classroom and if you look at the outputs of all the students together, you realize that the collective creativity was actually decreased compared to before, because each individual output was more creative, but the sum of them were actually a mix of similar things. So that's on creativity. Teaching, well, yeah, again, I agree with my colleagues. I can maybe strengthen the observations from the research that we have been doing, that one thing really to keep in mind is that performing is not equivalent to learning. An analogy that I like to use is the one of the satellite navigation. So when you use a GPS to find your direction, evidently it will help you. You will find your direction and it will find you the best itinerary to the place you want to go. However, if you always rely on this, you will never learn how to navigate the city you live in or how to navigate the place you are. So it's a good analogy because it shows that there is a time for everything, and perhaps in teaching or in exam, it's good to have, as I said earlier, a mix of open book and closed book exam. So that's two things to keep in mind. And maybe an enthusiastic take on this is that it's good to do as they do. It's good to experiment with the tool and try to innovate your teaching. It's good to, it's really a good opportunity, I think, however good it might be, if at least the tool is safe. Let's make sure of this first. But if the tool is safe, let's just use it and let's learn how to learn with it. I think it's the attitude that we should have in teaching.
반복되는 얘기인 것 같아요. 그러니까 AI라는 것이
While I'm repeating myself, AI serve as a tool of education. So when we are utilizing it well, it will be a boon. Otherwise, it will not be that good. So we have yet to figure out how well we have to use it. So we are almost approaching the end of the schedule. So we'll have only last question, which is an open-ended question fit for the future. I believe AI does not serve as a mere educational tool or teaching. AI is also about what defines a job and what defines the meaning of human lives, which poses a fundamental question. So we are fearful because our value system may change or not. So in the face of it, the future of humanity will be the last segment that I would like to shed light on. So I'd like to flip the order. So Professor Isango, please. So it is the most difficult question, but I'm the first. Anyway.
제가 드리고 싶은 말씀의 핵심을 먼저 말씀드리면
So I would like to deliver my core answer first and foremost. So building upon the moderator's a questioning mind, there's not a fixed road. This is something we have to shape. So I happen to figure out that in 17th century, the terminology future used to be used as a verb temporarily. So this is my theory, my brain-based theory, which has not been validated research-wise. I assume back then, in the European society, there may be some ancient-related complex or inferiority complex. So there used to be some brilliant times in the ancient times where the time went down in the medieval times, then they have to bounce back again. So this renaissance is something they have to bounce back. But they started to come up with the unseen, the inventions. They got to discover some knowledge that was not covered by ancient people. That was the source of confidence, but on the flip side, that led to the destruction of nature and colonialism. What matters is that proactive minds are something we need to develop in the face of AI. There are two major segments that are in conflict for AI. On the one side, there is a proactive adoption-based theory. Unless you are becoming the fast learner or the first learner, you will be doomed. You will be collapsing. But I don't think so. As covered during my presentation, AI will transform the way we live, but it will be incrementally interacting with us, so it will bring about coexistence. Of course, how well utilized AI matters, but those with such mindset and those without will be borne by UN report. I'm not denying such UN theory, but on the other side, there is a theory that conserves traditional values. So we need to do this well. We need to preserve these continuously, no matter what it is. I don't agree with your theory 100%, but we need to keep our mindset open. To what extent, in what format AI will be interacting with us should not be stigmatized. We need to continue to be engaged in interaction from the post-humanistic perspective. Anyway, what matters, the gist is, we need to be a shaper that takes into account our core values. The same applies to education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me turn my mic to Professor Lee Kwon-min. I think that was a very tough question. But
타임라인이 되게 중요해요. 타임라인.
I think timeline is really important per se.
1000 years of timeline으로 볼 것이냐.
So let's say that are we looking at 1,000-year timeline or 100-year timeline?
AI 하니까.
So
AI의 마지막 장면 기억나십니까?
can you remind me of the very last scene of the movie so-called AI, produced by Steven Spielberg? The very last scene
현생 인류가
was
고대 그 네안데르탈과 호모사피엔스의 유적을 찾아서 헤매듯이
as the humanity is looking for the past or the history of the humanity.
기계 종족이
I believe that the AI
종족의 어떤
robots in the future
시발점을 만든 데이빗이라는 부모님의 사랑을 언악 갈구했던 그 초기 AI의 그
go all the way to the founder or the body remained.
뭐 그런 식으로 우리가 그 굉장히 큰 타임라인으로 보면은
So if you look at the bigger timeline or the bigger picture, if you
그런 식의
will,
어떤 것들이 나타나지 않을까?
I think
너무 좀 심한
trying to discover, trying to go back our origin is what we're going to witness. Well,
다 받아들이고
like when the first surgery or when the first eye surgery was invented, nobody was pointing of it. However, now we are all accepting this surgery, right? So stuff like that, I believe that as AI progresses and it is becoming more embodied, I believe you are going to be accepting of that technology. I don't know how it is going to be ending up like. However, I believe within the 100 years, maybe our next generations. Well, what would that be? What would that look like for our next generations, right? If you take a look at 100-year timeline,
이 세상에서 잘 살기 위해서
in order for them to live their lives to the fully, what should they do?
저는 이제 이미 이제 애가 셋인데
Well, I have 3 children indeed,
직장인이에요.
and 2 of them are still working, and 1 of them is about to take an entrance exam for the university. And I recommend the physical educations rather than engineering or other subjects. I recommended him to apply for the physical educations. And
뭐냐면은 그 몸을 쓰는 것.
the point that I'm trying to make here is that entertaining and using your bodies, moving with your bodies, and trying to find the true values, and trying to be empathized, and trying to interact with the people. I think these are the very important values, and these are the values that people need to keep in mind when designing educations. That's my personal belief. So that is why I recommend the physical education for my 3rd one. So what's going to happen in future, like in a decade?
아까 이제 얘기했듯이
Just as I said before, how we view AI and how can empower AI, what kind of rights that we can give to the AI. Are we going to give the same rights as we have to the AI to create more values added? I believe that this is really important in terms of the economic infrastructures. And second,
AI나 이런 사이보그나 로봇
and the AI, cyborg, and the robots, I believe they will be very difficult to distinguish from the human beings at some point in the future.
AI나 이런 그런 것들과
And then AI.
이어지는 사람, 그러니까
So and then we need to think about what makes us different from the AI. I believe giving a lot of thoughts into that question is really important.
얼마나 관심이 있으신지 모르겠지만
So I'm not so sure how interested you are, but
토큰이라든지 그런 크립토커런시에서는
in cryptocurrency and the token area,
중에 하나는 전 세계 인류의 그 안구를 눈을 다 이렇게 베리파이 해가지고서.
Well, it requires a verifications of the 2 eyes in order to get a token. Once they are verified to be humans, they are perceived as a human entity, and the free tokens will be provided for them. So it means that the humans it should be humans to receive the tokens. I believe there are several attempts across the globe like this.
그런 일들이 일어나지 않을까.
So I believe this is going to be accelerated in the future, I believe.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you for sharing your insights. And Mr. Vital?
Yeah, so it's a tricky question, I would say, the values for the future. I would say it's important, and I agree on this, that we have to understand what distinguishes us humans from the machines. But on the other hand, I don't think that it's because AI or machines are able to be, good at mathematics or are able to be creative that we should stop learning and teaching mathematics or creativity. It's more about the decisions that we need to take and to make. Whether the AI is able to do it or not is actually less important, I believe, than what we as humans want to develop. And so what we want to develop, or what we want our students to develop, I believe is a nuanced mix of skills, the foundational skills, the knowledge, the basic knowledge that everyone needs to master and possess to be creative in a domain or be a critical thinker when evaluating the output generated by an AI, plus a mix of AI or digital literacies, however you call it. So maybe it's like with a car. You don't necessarily need to understand how a car engine works to drive a car. But with generative AI, I think it's important to at least have a basic understanding of the way the machine works to be proficient with it. Third thing, the social and emotional skills. That's part of the slowly, but more and more curriculum across countries try to focus and foster on these skills, empathy, relational intelligence, and these kind of things. And fourth thing, because that's what I presented, the 21st century skills or the higher order skills like creativity and critical thinking. So overall, it's kind of a mixed skill set, I think, a set of values that are important. And in my opinion, they are important for the generative AI revolution. But we don't know, maybe there's going to be a new thing in the future. So I think it's more important to work on a balanced skill set that will help us navigate the future rather than specifically targeting one technology, I would say.
네, 감사합니다. 그럼 끝으로 이인하겠습니다.
Thank you. Lastly, Professor Ina.
다 좋은 말씀 해주셔가지고
Well, I think they made excellent points already. So let me add one more thing to it.
뇌를 이제 생물학적인 뇌를 연구하는
I am researching brains biologically, right?
여러분의 몸도 그렇지만
Just like the body,
생물학적으로 얼마나
your brain
딱 짜여진 완벽한 시스템인지를 좀 많이 연구해 보시면
is really perfect system per se.
뇌가 그렇게 쉽게 바뀌지 않아요.
Your brain,
않습니다. 아까
well, it is not easy to change your brains. Well, actually, if you take a look at the revolutionary cycle,
뭐 기술을 몇 개 개발했다고 막 뇌가 막 바뀔 것처럼
it's a
얘기하는 거는 굉장히 교만한
10,000 years. So I believe that it is not rational to think that few excellent technologies will change the whole path of the revolutions for humans. So I believe that there are some choices that we can make. But sometimes people say that there is no choice for us. We need to accept this no matter what. But I think that is risky. Hormones, mindsets, and comfort levels
진짜 중요한 거는 지식을 잔뜩 집어넣는 게 아니고
are really important things to consider. And putting a lot of information in the brain is never enough. So based on what you have learned, what you have experienced, the people learn how to adapt to this new environment, being proud with the confidence in the model that they have built. So it is I think it is the ultimate goal of educating people. So no matter how much of the information they learn at the schools, they know how to adapt to the new environment.
그런 것들을 이제 가르쳐야 되는
And I think we need to teach how to adapt to the new environment after graduating from school. So maybe we can begin this training from middle school or the high schools. But there is a critical point to build the social bondings and the mental comfort and adjusting their feelings and overcoming the failures and gaining resilience. All of this should be learned, and they people and the students can only learn that after interacting with the actual world, with their own bodies, in fact. So the peoples have learned how to adapt to new environment, repeating and going through these whole cycles. This will never change. So
그런 사람과 사람이 부딪히거나 사람과 환경이 부딪히면서 좀 더디고 답답해 보이지만 반드시 몸으로 배워야 될 부분에
they are the things we need to face and experience directly in order to learn. So I believe that giving this time to our children, even at the younger ages, to experience directly is really important. But I believe giving AI technology or creating AI technology to younger people, preventing them from having these moments is kind of risky. But there is a technological wave. We feel like we are being pushed by this massive wave of technology. But we have our brains and we have to live our lives. We don't really need to resist, but we can have a right judgment and we can have our own decisions. So I believe it is really important for the teachers to play a key role to teach our students to make the right decisions. We don't really. You are the actual actors in the classroom, and by having interactions between you and I believe we have more opportunity to teach and guide our students to the right path. Thank you very much.
요즘 그렇지 않아도 인공지능 때문에 다들
AI is buzzword and it poses a great questions to all the teachers, and I feel like I'm not the only one who is struggling. So there is no clear answer for now. So there are various insights and opinions. I believe this is ongoing discussions, and I have very good time. And since everything is in progress, as Professor Isango pointed out, we have to think of what future we want, and we also need to think about and discuss a lot about what education we should provide in order to create the future that we want. And please give them a big round of applause for excellent discussions.
네, 교수님은 혹시 오늘 이렇게 저명하신 분들이 한 자리에 모이는 기회가 굉장히 드물기 때문에 플로우에서도 또 질문이 있을 수도 있을 것 같습니다. 한두 분 질문을 좀 받아보면 어떨까 싶은데요. 혹시 질문 있으신 분 계시면
So why don't we take one or two questions from the floor? This is such a rare opportunity to meet all the renowned speakers. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand. So we'd like to hand over a microphone.
예. 본 포럼을 주관하고 있는
Hello, I am Lee Sang-jin, Director of 경상북도 Office of Education Research Institute, the organizer for this International Education Forum. Four speakers deliver such insightful remarks. So it was music to my ear. So one of the thought-provoking moments was the fact that AI is learning from humans, from how humans are doing. So that holds a great ramifications. Of course, there are a lot of challenges facing the society, but at the end of the day, if the problem of the society is learned to AI, then there are some bigger problems. So it was such a thought-provoking and insightful remarks. So recently, I read a book titled The Thought of the Thought, authored by Daniel Kahn. So the brain and thought of human used to work on system 1 and 2. On system 1, it is an impulsivity and responsivity based one. So system 1 should control system 2. So system 2 is logical, critical, and etc. Because of such factors, the humanity can coexist. So the weakness behind such system is energy intensive interaction. Now that we have AI, is it likely that system 2 can be replaced by AI? No matter how well we teachers teach, as highlighted by professor, if students take AI in their hands, can we monitor and supervise them 24/7? It is unlikely. That is why we educators have big concerns whether System 2 peak and decline incrementally. If that is the case, so Professor Isaguk served as the member of the National Education Committee. Of course, we Education Office need to do a better job, but at the national level, while AI is advancing, we need to have a soul-searching movement over how nations can develop nationwide manual or instruction guideline. They should go hand in hand in parallel fashion. So, from such perspective, I would appreciate if Professor Lee Sang-wook or the neuroscientist Ina to deliver their inputs. I believe my thinking is too much a concerning thought, but so your thoughts are really in sync. So we may fall into the cognitive laziness, and there are some evolutionary reasons behind it because it is energy intensive. So System 1 working right away can benefit survivability. On the flip side, so if AI can be delegated in the way of inference and thinking, then this skill is likely to happen. As I highlighted before, not making them use can be problematic as well because national competitiveness-wise, those who are well utilizing AI will benefit compared to those who are not. We need to take the capability of utilizing AI while minimizing the side effects coming from this skill, what kind of human core skills can be decided per field and discipline. So based on such mindset, we need to focus on education continuously. Against such backdrop, convergence and fusion-based mindset and research are what we need. Personally speaking, I serve as the member of the National Education Committee, and I carry out some work with educators. But as I speak, what I'm doing is to work with KISS, KAIST, and Melbourne University, including GIST. So HE educators and the interdisciplinary researchers are the one that I'm focusing on. So AI may be learning bias and propagate them across the society. Of course, we need to focus on the critical thinking-based literacy. But different disciplines may have different ideas. So while learning them, we need to make sure that how we can correct bias in the way of production. So that is the very ethos in my research. While doing so, multidisciplinary wise research efforts are what we need.
잠깐만 코멘트를 하지 않을 수가 없는데.
So I think I need to add something to it.
아주 잘 알려진
Well, System 1 and System 2 you just mentioned are the very well-known principles or the theories that all the publics know. However, there is almost no neuroscientist who talk about System 1 and System 2.
시스템 1이라는 거는 워낙
When you say System 1,
흐르는 이 한강도 보면은 물 밑에 이렇게
when you go through the Han River, there is a wave, a strong wave underneath that it is very difficult for you to see that on the surface. So I believe.
감성하고 이제 완전히 분리된 것처럼 이제 데카르트 에러라는 책으로 다마시오가
I believe that Damasio wrote this book criticizing the paradox, right? But when you take a look at the connections, System 1 and System 2 are not really 100% separated. They are interlinked. Sometimes people believe like, oh, they use the System 2. However, System 1 function underneath, so it is very difficult for them to acknowledge how the System 1 functions. And sometimes when the people who believe they use a System 2, not System 1, and they delegate some of their works to AI, they start to feel some fear. So there was more research for the two groups, one group with the ChatGPT and one group without the ChatGPT. When they're preparing reports, when the universities used the ChatGPT to prepare the report, they were not really 100% confident with the things in the report. And after this continues, they will be so anxious working if they don't have ChatGPT, right? So I believe this is a very tip of the iceberg. But as I've said before, the teachers have to teach how to maintain their comfort level to the students. So that requires a lot of intelligence to maintain their comfort level or the mental health, mental peace, if you will. So now what is happening in other organs is really important to the brains, right? So there's neurons and the chemicals. They're really fueling the brain function. All of these are coming from your digestive system. So
완전히 우리나라 전인 교육 이렇게 하지만 진짜 뗄 수가 없습니다.
I can emphasize, and I want to emphasize that system 1, system 2 are not two separate things. They are all interconnected. So lastly, is there any question from the floor? Is there any question from the floor? Yes, I believe there is.
네, 안녕하십니까.
Good afternoon.
저는 여기 경주 초등학교 교감.
I am a teacher of the Kyungju Elementary School, and you are top-notch professionals and experts. So I do have one very simple question. Well, we teach 8-year-old to 12-year-old in the elementary schools.
어떻게 보면 공교육을 굉장히 많이 잘 받은 우리나라에서 공부를 굉장히 좀 잘하는 학생들이 다니는 학교에 교수님으로 계시면서 지금 현재
You are the professors of the top universities in Korea.
하는 입장에서 보면 학생들한테 어떤 걸 가르쳐야 되고
And what we should teach our students,
특히나 이제 초등학교 같은 경우
how they will grow up into, what they will grow up
초등학교
into.
교육을 잘 모르기 때문에
But when you think about that,
어떻게 행동할까 이런 거에 대해서
we think sometimes how they're going to act when they become a university student. Well, this is my questions actually. This is a question to all professors. You are the professors at the excellent universities with very smart people. And when you look at these people, and maybe you have idea like, oh, what it could be better if they knew this when they were in the elementary schools. Like, you know, maybe that's the school teachers should have taught this to the students.
이게 저희가 어쨌든 이 학교 시스템 자체가
You know, when you take a look at the school systems, we are so focused on the college entrance, right?
교육의 어떤 목표나 이런 게
So
현실과 외부와는 좀 괴리가 있다고
I believe this creates some kind of conflicts or the confusions to our students. But after listening to your lectures, I feel like the teacher's responsibility is big, and the schools play a key role, especially in this era. But I just want to ask for your personal opinions or insights. Like if you want to go back and teach something to your university students, what would that be, please?
저는 딸이 둘이 있는데요.
So I have two girls. So they are in college. So when they were young, what I wanted for them when they were in elementary school was physical health. So more physical activity-driven education was what I hoped for, so that they could enjoy as much physical activity as possible. So for a few years, they stayed in Germany with me, and they came back to South Korea. So I appreciated the distinct difference between European education and the Korean education. So Korean education does not offer big PE sessions, and Korean students do not avid readers. So when they enjoy a diversity of books, so please think about the goal of education. So studying is all about reading a book. Book reading is not about learning something. So reading books is a habitual way of learning. So reading a book will be important. Last but not least, different people have different opinion, but I believe the goal of education should develop independence for students to take the initiative for what they want to do. For example, taking buses on their own and being a solo traveler and spending their money on their own. independently in an enterprising way is the way of living. So I could not pinpoint one thing, but when you develop that kind of skill set, will be lovely. But unfortunately, Korean schools didn't offer that kind of way of education. They don't have to learn that skill set in school, but that was the very qualities that I wanted for my kids when they were in elementary school.
예. 굉장히
Well,
애정이 듬뿍 담긴 질문이
I can feel your deep affections towards your students.
선생님의 어떤 진실이 느껴질 수 있어서
I can
감사합니다.
feel how serious you are when it comes to teaching students. I give a lot of thoughts into that. What could I teach students more? Rather than saying a subject, I want to
사고하는 방식을 가르쳐
teach. I would have said like teaching how to think, if you will.
나중에 이제 뭔가 product innovation, 새로운 혁신을 하겠다.
Product innovations and the innovations. When they talk about this kind of stuff, Samsung, LG, and Hyundai employees or the staffs go to Stanford to attend and learn the design thinking. When they learn design thinking, they have to think about what they can do in order to nurture their creativity and what they should in order to empathize others. And they learn the methodologies or systems to brainstorm.
제가 무슨 얘기를 하고 싶은 거냐면은
What I want to say here is that to the elementary students, I want to teach you three things. It can be subject or it can be extracurricular activity. But I want to teach them three thinkings. First, the design thinking.
사람이 사람으로서 다른 사람의 문제점이나
Design thinking allows people to empathize and allow the students to put their shoes, put into other people's shoes, to think about what they can do in order to resolve a specific issues. And I think there is a methodology to teach that. So I believe that this methodology is well organized and it is ready to be taught to people. Like it is available in the MBA schools, and actually this is the methodology I'm deploying in my class. And I think this is the one thing that I want to teach elementary school students. Second, computational thinking, for the logical thinking. My second child, when he or she was an elementary school student,
코딩 뭐 이런 거 많이 하잖아요. 근데 이제 그런 것들을 통해서 되게 로지컬하게 하는 그런 습관을 또
he did coding a lot.
기초적인 컴퓨터 언어를 통해서
And he learned the computer languages to nurture the computational skills.
띵킹이라는 그런 메커니즘을
So when you teach computational thinking, it can be a subject and there can be a text thinking logically and accumulating that knowledge to think logically are really important. And the last thinking is that system thinking.
띵킹은 뭐냐면은
When you say system thinking,
디자인 띵킹을 되게 많이 강조해요.
Stanford emphasized the design thinking and MIT emphasized the system thinking for the product innovations.
강조를 많이 합니다. 시스템 띵킹이라는 거는 뭐냐면은
When you say system thinking,
문제나 어떤 시스템을
when you create a product or system,
당면한 문제라든지 당면한 사람이라든지
there are some challenges. And they are really important. However, it is more important to understand the structure surrounding that issue, surrounding that problem. So you can say that there is something on the surface and there is something underneath. So it is very important to teach students to look at the both sides, what is on the surface and what is underneath. So for example, when you teach adults, if you want to travel from Gyeongju to Pohang, there is always heavy traffic. What should we do? Maybe the roads should be extended. There should be new streets or new roads. Well, actually, that can be a solution for that person. But if you think systematically, if you add another street or another road, it can create another system disruptions. Something can be vitalized something can be disrupted. So this one single action can lead to various consequences, and all of this should be considered comprehensively. And this system thinking is a methodology to nurture the capabilities, I believe. So these are the three different thinkings that we should teach our elementary school students.
가르쳐서 초등학생들이
In order
아주
to
어린 시절부터 그런 것들을 이렇게 체화해서 배우는
nurture
않을까라고 생각을
them
하고
and to be prepared for the futures.
제 애를 교육을 하면서
So when I
굉장히
teach my children,
제 애가 커가고 이제 그 학교를 가고 직장을 잡는 모습을 보면서
and when I see them grow,
발전에 굉장히 도움을
and I believe that the three different thinkings are really excellent and key aspects for them. So I believe with this simple questions, you have to give a lot of time to students to think more and to practice more, to use their bodies more, to read more. So I think that concludes the panel discussions. Please give them a big round of applause.
고생하셨습니다. 네, 이것으로
Thank you very much. This concludes day one of the 2025 K-Edu Expo International Education Forum. Today we took a look at the human dignity and the meaning of life in the age of AI amid rapid technological progress. So we are reminded of the enduring importance of human values and how education can preserve to expand them. Through a session reflecting on education, we explore new learning paradigm in the future direction of education in the AI era. We look forward to your continued interest and participation. As I've said before, on the entrance there are books written by the speakers who delivered the speech today. Please take one. And I would like to extend my gratitude to all of you who stay up until the end of day one. Thank you very much.